Hello, Tom Vecchia here with a special live edition of the Armchair NBA. Have a very special returning guest, Jeff Nadu. Jeff Nadu, welcome to the Armchair NBA. How you doing today?
Hey, Tom, always good to talk to you. It's been a while. I haven't talked to you in a while. Hope you're doing
I
well.
know,
Hope you're having a good
It's been
holiday
a while, and
good New Year.
we didn't get to hold on. Make sure I don't double dip. Okay, so we didn't chat and let some people come in. So briefly, Gazoo, welcome. So the fight, right? Obviously, is a little crazy, a lot going on. What happened? And give us kind of the quick background, and before we jump in and going on the Mafia and Drugs.
Yeah, it was a great time. I'm a little disappointed in how I performed. I didn't really stick to the game plan that I wanted to stick to. And I was telling some of your boys, Joe and Vinny, about just the adrenaline that I had walking in there. I mean, it was quite crazy. Most of the audience didn't like me. And ultimately, look, I'm not a fighter. I don't sit and fight every day.
Yeah.
I'm not a trained boxer or anything, but I feel like if I would have had another round or two, I probably would have won. I didn't throw any uppercuts, which I should have, but it was a great experience. It was a great time. They treated me really well down there. And it's a memory I always have. I actually had a ton of positive talk after it. I was telling Joe and Vinny, I had a video. I think I did 800,000 views on Twitter. It was a really good time for me. It did well. And,
Nice.
I think it was good for me overall.
So I was watching it live with Joe and Vinny here at the house. So obviously rooting for you. And I said this, and I said it to them. Hopefully they'll remember. I said, Jeff is going to win, but he's not going to win. And here's what I said. I said if it was going to go longer, I felt you were going to win. If it was only 3 rounds, I felt he was going to win. Younger guy, has a puncher's chance and that kind of stuff. And we really didn't chat about this, but I found it fake it. I can't ready to starting. So I felt like when we were talking, you're like, oh, I have a trainer, I'm training and that kind of stuff. And it was like, wait a second, if you train with a trainer, they're gonna train you to fight a boxer, right? Versus you're fighting like Jersey Jerry, right?
Another fighter,
so do you so versus like, they may tell you how to do your footing and how to keep the distance from the gloves and when to.
There wasn't any of that in this fight, unfortunately, though. It was just kind of like a brawl. It was 3 minutes. It wasn't, as you said, like if I had 6, 7 rounds.
Oh, you would have smoked him. You would have smoked him.
Yeah, I thought my cardio was way better. And look, one of the things I was hoping for, we had actually gotten word that it might be a 5-round fight, and I was really happy about that because early on when we negotiated this, that's what I had been under the I was under the implication that we were doing that, but it is what it is. It was a great time.
I said it. I think I texted it the night before or the morning after. I'm like, you won, bro. The fact that you did it, the fact that you were in the big lights like that. Barstool's now in the biggest media companies in the space. You should be proud. Like I said, if it went one more round or more, I think it was you. One last question on it before we deep dive into the subject at hand. Did you have like your strategy going in? And obviously, like anything else, you jumped in the ring and it's like it went out the window, or did you not maybe have the right strategy? And then when you went in, you didn't have the strategy. Like I'm wondering, was it the issue on the strategy and you didn't execute correctly, or your strategy might have been off from the get go?
No. I will continue to say it. I had a great trainer. He taught me everything I needed to know. I'll be honest. I felt like I looked great on tape, just like doing it on my own. But once I got in there, it was just kind of. I wasn't even in my right headspace. I was just trying to focus. And what made it difficult, Tom, as well, is that I don't know if this was conveyed on the broadcast, but some of us didn't and couldn't have our trainers in the ring.
Yeah, what was that about?
Yeah, I guess from what I understand, after the fact, we had to get them registered, which I was never told about. I would have definitely have done that. Because I feel like if I'd have had my guy there or someone that I know, he would have just said to me, look, bro, throw an uppercut, bro. Yeah. This guy continues to come in. You can get right under him.
Correct.
But it's so hard. And once you get in, and I have such a respect for boxers because, look, what I did isn't boxing. I mean, we just screwed around. But, my opponent was gracious. He came and said nice things to me after it. And like I said, I got a great response. I think it was just, people think like when you go into those fights and you never really fight,
Yeah.
The thought was you're going to get knocked out or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, I threw punches. I tried to stay busy. I felt like my cardio was better, like I said. But if I get another opportunity, I think it'll be different for me. Once you get out of the way and get that one done, I think, if I ever do it again, it'd be a different experience.
Now, hey, Coach Train. Now, I was wondering, I know Rough and Rowdy was like a homegrown Barstool thing, and the fact that Portnoy still continues to be there. Is it a big revenue center for Rough and Rowdy, for Barstool? Is it, more like an upcoming thing where maybe the YouTubers will jump in? For the business end, where does it fit into the mix as far as Barstool's concerned?
Well, they did 70,000 buys.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, it was a good event.
That's a lot.
I think it was right up there with the Conseco one they did. So,
wow.
Yeah, they definitely did well in it. I mean, obviously, I think, are they at the point where they'll have like a Jake Paul type of thing? No, yeah. I mean, that's like really high level stuff at this point. Yeah. But no, people continue to gain traction with Rough Rowdy and kind of understand what it is. I think they're only going to get bigger fights. I think they'll get like TikTokers and things like that. I think it's going to be fascinating to see how it goes down the road. And look, at the end of the day, there's an individual at Barstool now that if him and I fought, it would.
Oh, if you and Rico fought, it
would rival. It would rival Golden Boy Promotions kind of thing. Like it would be a very high level, but we'll see. I mean, I think it continues to get more and more. And the good thing about something like YouTube, like on the MobTube, like I had so many people that didn't even know what it was, and they were like, "Hey, I bought it," or "Hey, I was gonna." I never knew this was around, so. Yeah, it continues to make inroads.
It's interesting because hey Ron, it's interesting because I do my fantasy football with Fun A, and for those who know,
yes.
it's Rico's.
I know Fun Anthony.
Yeah, it's one of Rico. It's funny. So Jeff and I have a mutual friend, and Fun A is very close to Rico. But so the one time I asked him, I'm like, hey, what's cooking with that? And I thought there was a lot more theater to it. Evidently, there's not, but there's not even an explanation. Like even internally, Funay's not telling me, bro. It's like, here's what's going on. It's weird, kind of,
Well, he's coming. He's getting more and more willing to do it.
Yeah.
So like he mentioned that he would do it for $1 million. Now whether they're going to make that happen, I don't know. But he's getting a little bit more warm, I think, with it. I think if it's something that he was. Look, I'm willing to do it. It's really all about him at this point. And it's funny because Fun A, he actually came into the office at one point. And,
with the Santa.
Yeah, and him and I don't know if you know Slim Cooper, but they had mentioned he's a guy, he's a sure guy. But they mentioned having me in one of the gifts and opening it. And I popped out, but we never made it happen. But no, those guys are good guys. I don't know what Rico's deal is. We'll see if he ever does it. I think it'd be
now. I know there's some prop bets. Like Rico's like, if Jeff wins, I'll quit. If Jeff wins, he can never work. I know, and I know Barstool. I know enough about it that there's some theater, but there's some business. Like, was any of this binding, or was any of it real? Or was it a little bit of theater, honestly?
No. Well, look. I mean, about 3 hours before the fight, Portnoy. I actually saw Portnoy like an hour before the fight, and he had put out a tweet that if I won, I had a lifetime contract at Barstool.
I saw that actually, yeah.
And that was definitely binding. He definitely did that.
Yeah.
Now, am I out forever? No. I know how they work. Whether you like me or not, I move the needle there. And Dave likes that. And I think someday you will see it. I really do. I think you'll see it someday. And I think
I'd hate to ask you this and put you on the spot, more of a private question. Do you think you'll re-engage with Barstool or look to re-engage with Barstool outside of Rough and Rowdy, or is it still kind of you're not sure?
I mean, Tom, like the truth is, like I'm at this point, I'm actually pretty happy with what I do. On the sports betting end, I make money. I do what I do. I would love for them to buy my podcast. I think if elevated, I think it could be something big. And I think for people like you, I think I could involve a lot of people with that, and I think it'd be a very good product. I don't know. We'll see. I'm just kind of taking it day by day and doing what I do. And, I have the best of both worlds. I do my own thing and I still get some love there. So,
well, it's funny because I interviewed you heard of Wondery, right? The podcast network.
Oh, yeah.
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 So I interviewed very early on Hernan Lopez. Hernan Lopez was founder of Wondery. So he was with, I want to say Fox. He was a movie guy. He got some investors. Would I work for Barstool? Maybe. I mean, I have a small media company, so it's not that I wouldn't. I probably would. But then what may happen is if I focus on that and then get away from my small marketing and media company, that might fall by the wayside. Because I'm not a talent guy. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm not like a talent guy. Like a lot of my stuff's are interviews and that kind of stuff. So even if I ever became talent one day, which it wouldn't happen, like I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. To be honest. And number two, I heard. Oh, sorry, Jeff. I heard Barstool doesn't pay well. I don't want to put. I keep putting on the spot, brother. But you know,
I'll say this. No, I'll say this. Barstool has always been very fair with me. Even when I worked there, I was a little different than most employees. I was an independent contractor, remote employee. So all I really did was blog and I did a podcast. And Portnoy basically said to me, you can do your website and other stuff. You just can't do content anywhere else. You can only do it here.
Yeah, that's fair.
And, you know, they took care of all my expenses and, you know, they paid me a good amount. And where I lived, it was good. Now, look, I was offered a contract 3 years ago and they wanted me to move to New York. I declined ultimately because I didn't think it'd work out for me monetarily. Yeah. So I think they've gotten better. I mean, the company's so much bigger now. And
well, maybe we could do the armchair and the wig. No, I was kidding.
We could. And I'll tell you right now, Tom, if I ever took my pod there, I would. There are two people on YouTube that I know and I think would be really good.
I'm gonna guess me and RJ.
100%.
Wow. See, I read your mind.
And,
well,
and
I will.
And if OC Shorts was interested in coming to like being in for interviews and stuff, I'd love to speak to him as well. And look, this is no knock to any YouTuber.
No.
I just kind of look at YouTube a little different. I'm more about the history aspect of it. But I, you know, Vinny and all these guys, I would love to talk. I think Vinny's a fascinating guy. Like all these guys, if I can help them, I would. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's why I see you as like blazing the trail and then bringing people along that makes sense. You know, my strength is I'm good at interviewing people. If I were to do a monologue, I would fare miserably. I'm not even, great on lives. Good show, Lisa. Cool.
Thanks, Mom. I'm about to tell you right now, that is a really great channel right there.
It is. It's an excellent channel. She's a good woman.
She is really good. And real quick, I did that video today. Not a lot of people know who Pupetta Maresca is. She was an Italian camerista over in Italy.
Oh yeah. Oh that. Oh yes. Okay. Yes.
She was a woman boss.
Holy shit. Yeah.
Married into the Camorra. Her father was in the Camorra. Her husband was killed by a rival group. She killed the individual that killed him. She went on trial, got 18 years for this crime, and ended up, throughout her life was always involved with the Camorra, ended up kind of being a boss of some sort. She died today. So I did a video on it.
I have to watch that because now I forgot the name, but I knew of her, obviously. And the Camorra, the Napolitano women are very strong women. Southern Italian women are very strong women, so I got to check that out. I'm not surprised.
Her real name is Assunta, but they called her Pupetta, which is the doll basically. But very interesting woman for sure. But that's a great channel right there. She does a great job.
But I know you're planning to go to Italy. You just got to be careful. Italy's a little different in terms of like there's wise guys here and there's a cafe. And you could kind of like go and lurk and whatever.
I got to be careful.
In Italy, it's a little different.
Yeah. I'll tell you though, Tom, real quick.
Yeah.
Miss Maresca, one of the best looking mobsters I've ever seen.
Interesting.
In her young years.
Wow.
Gorgeous.
Nice. So I want to talk about, and thanks everybody for coming in. I want to talk a little bit about the Mafia and Drugs. Jeff and I were thinking of jumping on, figured jump on, no time like the present. So I interviewed Bobby Luisi yesterday, which is more of a modern era capo. For those that don't know Bobby, he was with the Philadelphia crime family out of Boston, had his own crew, very strong. I think he had about 8 guys on his team that were made, and then about 100 associates. And he was really heavy in the cocaine train. So we kind of went through the economics of drugs, right? So you being Jeff as a kind of like me, like an armchair guy, and kind of like an analysis, and doing an analysis. we know that the mafia was into drugs on the heroin pipeline from the 30s, probably as late as the 80s. Still doing stuff now. It's not as known, but pretty like probably the number one market share for heroin up until at least to the mid 80s. French Connection, and then the Sicilian Connection, and then Old Bridge and some other stuff. So my question to you is, when you think of the mafia, you think of them as drug dealers. Let's set the tone.
No, I don't. I kind of have anchored that sentiment in a lot of the shows that I've done, particularly recently. I felt like for them it was kind of an industry that was kind of hidden for the most part. Like every family
Yeah.
was in it, and I think you very well know this. In the 40s and 50s and 60s, drug trade, drug dealing was a lot bigger than it was once you get into the 80s, because you had bosses in the 80s that basically said,
Correct.
you're not gonna sell drugs. I think
Correct.
it definitely got none. People still did it. Obviously, the Cherry Hill Gambinos or whoever, Matty Madonna and those people. But ultimately, in the 40s and 50s, heroin was big money. But no, I don't look at. I've always looked at the drug trade in more of a, definitely in black organized crime. I mean, if you know anything about the Philly Black, I mean, that was most of their business. Frank Matthews, people like that, Mexicans. But no, I never looked at that gangsters, at least over the last 50 years, as drug dealers.
Well, we were talking earlier, and in terms of drugs, obviously now you got the Gambinos and the Sicilian faction. The Bananos have historically been very strong into drugs. I think there was the number one moneymaker for them. And then Lucchese family.
Commission, right?
Yeah. And then a Lucchese family, also, and at Harlem. You had Matty Madonna. Some other guys are still kind of around, so I don't want to mention their names. John Panisi talked about some of them in his blog. So there were some heavyweights there. So, there's still guys that are around, whether it be American Mafia or Sicilian American, that are in American Cosa Nostra, that were involved with heroin.
And remember, the Lucchese's have really always been involved with drugs as well.
Correct.
I mean, Tony Corallo would always talk about, you don't sell drugs. He sold drugs when he was a kid.
Correct.
Obviously, Big John Armento, Joe Beck, Armand Galanti, and the Bananas, they were all kind of connected. And I mean, Lucky Luciano sold drugs when he was young, selling opium and stuff. So it's been around forever.
Well, I'm not going to say his name, but my jeweler, or one of my jewelers, got caught with $72 million of heroin back in the 80s.
Get the fuck out. Really?
I'll tell you offline.
Wow.
But that's pretty crazy.
That's a lot of white, man.
Back then, that's 72 million back then. So yeah. So thank you, NB. But this is the part I don't get, right? That you had the infrastructure, you had 26 cities, and I believe, this is just my belief, and you guys in the comments, tell me what you think. I believe Appalachian was about the expansion of the heroin distribution in the U.S. Because I don't know if you know this, you probably do, and those watching probably do. There was a very important meeting in 1957 at the Hotel Les Palms in Sicily, in Palermo. Oh, yeah. And it was like Luciano, Joe Bonanno, Tommaso Buscetta, the mafiosi over in Sicily. They got together to say, hey, you know what? You guys are going to take care of the distro, and you guys are going to import to the U.S. Then the American Cosa Nostra was going to take it and then distribute it to the 26 cities. I believe that the Appalachian meeting was simply to talk. That was the number one thing on the agenda. I really don't believe it was, Vito Genovese was, getting made. He's the new boss. I don't think that was it. I really think it was around the heroin distribution. So my question to you, though, is let's fast forward to the 80s, right? When I know his story is interesting, but yeah, I like you. Welcome to jump in a few minutes if you're okay. But for now, for Jeff. So what I wanted to say was, why would it, from the business perspective, especially when the coke was getting big in the 80s, Rizzuto's and the Canadian mob bought from the Cali cartel. The Sicilian mob has been buying from Pablo, right? The Calabrians were buying from the Mexicans. Why did America Cosa Nostra kind of say, you know what, we're done with the heroin, or we have the heroin network? Why not insert cocaine into that same network? Why do you think?
You have to often wonder. And we remember Chris Rosenberg would ultimately be killed for that obsession. He went down and tried to mess with Cubans, and it ended up being the undoing for him. Yeah, that's something that I know you talk with Bobby about. I never understood that. The party drug, right? Because in the 80s, 70s, and coke was huge. I mean, it was a big money maker.
Yep.
I can understand you don't want to get involved with crack and things like that because you know you have to do a little bit more work and it's it's good profit, but it's not as easy. Yeah, I never understood that myself. And by that point, remember, by the time cocaine had its real moment in the sun in like the 70s and 80s, we were at a point in the mafia where, again, I think if you're someone like Salerno and some of these big bosses, you're looking at it and saying it's way more trouble than it's worth. We're making hundreds of millions of dollars doing what we're doing.
Construction or whatever they were doing.
Right. And if you remember, Tom, one of the great, and I know it's a film, but if you remember early in the Gotti film, when Gambino asked Gotti to kill McBratney for the thing, he says, you know, the mob or the police can look past a lot of things, not drugs, right?
Yeah.
And again, I think that's really valid. Like, you know, even today, like you get hit way harder with you know, a drug offense than you do with extortion, you know? So I think it's just simply that. But I always have wondered about the cocaine thing for sure.
So I have a theory which buttresses kind of what you're saying is, you know, by then, and then Bobby kind of said this too. We didn't get, I don't know why, I should have brought it up on the interview, but we were chatting before, and he kind of said part of the problem is in the 90s, which we could argue when the twilight was. Some people could say 89. Some people could argue mid 90s, some could argue late 90s, some could argue 2005. So, you know, we all kind of agree for the most part, the 90s was the twilights at some point, either beginning of the end or the end. And according to Bobby, by the 90s, there were wars in Philly, there were wars in Boston. The Patriarchas got decimated. I know that the Cavalcantes got decimated. So basically, they didn't even have the organization or the bandwidth or, frankly, the juice to maybe go to the Colombians and say, hey, we got this. I think that part is part of the problem. What do you think about that?
Well, you know, I will say there's one comment I want to talk about. I think Dre to 5K is totally right. Like, I think there is a lot of hype that they weren't selling drugs. Look, I don't know if the Genoveses and certain families that, but the Gambinos, they definitely were. And if you go down to Philadelphia, I've talked with you before about Long John Martirano, who was selling drugs under Angelo Bruno. He was the meth guy in Philadelphia. Everyone was buying P2P off Long John. So again, remember, this was all going on. Bruno was letting people move drugs. Everybody was moving drugs. But as far as just that, I think that's a great point. I mean, we'll never know how much exactly they're making. But remember, even during the Gotti reign and right before the Gotti reign, who was selling drugs? Ruggiero, Gene Gotti. I mean, they were all selling weight. You know?
Well, the reason why Angelo got involved, in my opinion, was his brother passed, and his brother was a big time drug dealer. That's why he didn't want to get made, and I think he inherited it. I think it was like this fell in his lap, and it was big money, and I think it jammed him up. You know?
Yeah, I think another thing to answer your question earlier, you know, why didn't they get involved in the 70s, 80s? Remember back in the 40s and 50s, it was so much harder to get convicted of really any crime as opposed to it was, you know, 70s or 80s. The drug laws were a lot different. Remember in the 80s, the war on drugs started. And the federal government really came down hard on drug dealers. So I don't know. I think it will never be. And look, the mob's never going to be what it was in the 50s and 60s. That's just that simple. But yeah, they were all doing it, and they'll say they weren't, but they were.
Well, the other thing is, like you said, I think the old timers had money at that point. You know, Castellano, Bob even said it was legitimate multimillionaire. Yeah, Tony Salerno, I mean, Vintage, and these guys were probably worth upwards of 20, 30, even $50 million. So I get it. You don't want to rock the boat, but I think the two reasons were bigger heat, which how much more heat can you get than Giuliani? And number two is they were worried about informants because the numbers are bigger. My thing is there were still a lot of informants anyway. I would say if they got involved with drugs, right, and they did it correctly, and again, we're going to talk about it today or soon, recent. So I get the aversion to it. I get it, right? But also conversely, if they got involved with it because they had the infrastructure, that would have brought a fuck ton of money in it. With money buys power, right? Yeah. So I want to kind of, and I know you appreciate.
Remember though, Tom, this is why the mob as well. I mean, other than the law enforcement angle, because let's remember, there's no group that's been targeted more in history than the mob. It's that simple. Like for decades, the FBI didn't even know that black organized crime existed. Chinese didn't even know that. Like, go down to Chinatown, which is like blocks away from Little Italy. They had no idea that tongs were running Chinatown forever, and they were making Johnny Yang was making big money on heroin in Chinatown. Correct. So, I think that was obviously a part of it. And again, no one had more law enforcement attention than they did. Now I understand what you're talking about with the money angle, but
Joe, you got a little feedback. Jeff, I muted you. A little feedback. We're gonna undo it. Better? Good?
Yeah, I don't. Everything's off. Only.
Oh, better now for me. Better. Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So we're talking, Joe. I want you to weigh in, and Joe kind of gave some opinion on drugs. He felt it was the using of drugs hurt the mafia. We'll get to that in a second. But what we're talking about tonight, Joe, is why didn't the mob get into drugs in terms of cocaine and distribution in the 80s, which was a big business opportunity? Was it the right move? Was it the right move? What do you think?
But when you say they didn't get deep into the narcotics game, like what are you referring to? What part of it? They didn't get it?
Yeah, so we were talking earlier, right? It's probably fair to say from the 30s to the 80s, the Sicilian mafia in American Cosa Nostra, controlled the heroin trade, right? For the most part. The Mexicans, I think, control it now, but up until the 80s, it was American Cosa Nostra, essentially, right? So you had that infrastructure, right? You have those, dealers, distributors, relationships, that kind of stuff, right? And when the 80s came, I thought it would have been almost not simple, definitely not simple, but enough to where you went to Cali or you went to Escobar or the Mexicans and said, you know what, we got 26 cities, we got the infrastructure, let us buy wholesale from you, we got the distro. That didn't happen for the most part. So
first of all, if they did that, okay, if they did what you just said, they'd have a problem with the cartels because you'd be cutting them out of a whole hell of a lot of money.
No. So that's what happened. So prior to who was it? Felix, not Felix. God,
Gallardo.
Prior to him,
Gallardo, yeah,
the Mexicans would just run it. Yeah, they would just run it into the U.S. and it was like, we made it. He was like, why are we giving up margin? Why do we get about with the distro? Because we just got to move. It's easier to move it from Chicago to New York, right, and Chicago to L.A. than it is from Mexico to. So that they were smugglers, right?
Real quick, Joe, let's just be honest with ourselves. When the mob was moving drugs, they weren't standing on the corner selling white to people.
Of course not.
They were wholesaling it, and they were the suppliers. Because again, remember, they were the ones being detected. The mob was always the ones being looked after. Again, cartels were able to create and build something. All these other groups, Frank Matthews, all these people, because they weren't being detected. No one knew they existed. They were doing things behind the scenes, and they were the ones on the corner selling them, and they were wholesaling everything. Where's the mob going to sell? That was already being done by other groups. They were going to, as he said, enhance in other people's territory, and I just think they had kind of worn out their welcome, and people weren't worried about them anymore.
Well, so really quick, so this is what we're going to get to. We're going to get to today, Andrew, too. So let's talk about parallels, right? The Corona Contreras, right? They are big out of Venezuela, Canada, Aruba, and they would get it and they would broker the drugs to the Sicilian mafia and to the Canadian mafia. For some reason, did not have a big relationship with the American LCN. I don't know why, just whatever reason. I think some of it, the Bananos, but not that deep. Rob could probably know better than me. So also the Ndrangheta in the 80s picked it and ran with it. The reason why they went with cocaine over heroin was it was easier to transport for them. It was big money people. This sounds terrible, but heroin users are typically lower income. Right. They typically die, and they don't have that residual recurring. First, it was an economic move to go to drugs, do one product, and be fucking great at it.
Real quick, I never understood. And look, I know there's a lot of money in heroin. I never understood. Like, as you said, cocaine is a high, it's a high profile. Yeah. It's a rich drug. You're not going to die from it. I mean, generally, I guess if you do too much, but ultimately it's a party drug, right? It's like marijuana used to be, I guess. The marijuana is not as potent, but I just never understood. You know, you got people dying on their feet. You got people that are, as you said, low income. It's mostly street people doing it. I never understood it.
So, but also I think the American LCN have relationships. So, for example, just because you import it, and just because you have it, you got to get to that next distro point, right?
Right.
So, I think they had better relationships with like black drug dealers and other ethnicities for heroin than they did with the infrastructure for coke, right? So, Felix Gallardo saw, you know what, we're going to take over the distro, so we don't need the Italians, we don't need anybody. Now they could buy from us, but we really don't need them. So I think that's why they got X'd out. And if anything, the Italians were buying from them, but they were using it in Canada, they were using it in Australia, and they were using it in Europe. And like I said, so I want to guess the Gambino family was making, and this is estimated, $500 million a year in 1985. The Indrangheta probably wasn't even doing half of that. They're now a $50 billion organization. So that's my question. Should the American LCN got involved with coke like the Italians did? So what do you guys think? I'll start off with Joe.
Wait, repeat. You said like the Italians did?
So the Calabrians, the Cosa Nostra was always doing.
Okay.
But the Calabrians not only got involved, but they perfected it. Italy, 80% market share, control the Australian production. Kilo coke in Australia goes for about 137,000 today just to get it there. They give it to the bikers. They work with the bikers. Canada, the Rizzutos, the Caruana Contreras in Canada, the Calabrians in Canada. So everywhere else was prospering for the Italians, while the U.S., the American LCN, dropped the ball. So my question is, should the American LCN got bigger into coke?
I think they were already big into it, and I don't think they dropped the ball, because the problem is this: if they were to get drugs from, let's say, from Pablo Escobar directly, right?
Yeah.
Now, they wouldn't be able. Okay, so if the LCN in New York went down and made a deal, okay, I guess the only places we would be able to sell is in the Northeast, because you're not going to go to Chicago when they could go to the fucking cartels too. You know what I mean? You can't cut them out. So you're limited to one geographical area. Yeah, you might be able to send things here or there.
Correct. The mob is not Tampa at that point.
Right, exactly.
New Orleans. So you didn't have that infrastructure you had with the heroin. I think that makes sense. So
and then the other thing is with, they had an edict against drug dealers. So what would that look? I mean, whether it was stuck to or not, that's not what I'm saying, because they broke that rule. But realistically, they had to do it on the sneak.
Yeah.
So,
but that's okay. So now Andrew's been waiting to get to current day. So I want to talk about my interview with Luisi, and Bobby was great. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not coming at him. I was just always fascinated by Frank Matthews. Eilate says he thinks that the mob killed him, which I think is a very plausible situation. That could definitely have happened. I'm one of the weird people that believe Frank Matthews is still out there somewhere or died on the run. It's interesting. I guess we'll never know. But every FBI agent on that case said that they believe he's still alive. Now, what can you get him for at this point? He didn't commit murder or anything. So it's a fascinating situation. I've always been interested in people's thought on him.
You know what? Rob Lito made me think of a good thing, okay? His comment. The cartels had representation in the States.
That's true.
Okay? So, like he said, they were in fucking Queens. The Cali cartel had people in Queens. What was the guy's name? The gay fucking guy. Elmer Herrera. They called him Pacho.
Yeah.
He was in New York for a little bit. So I think, they had even El Chapo had his guys. You know what I mean? All the cartels had people. The fucking Ariano Felix group in Tijuana. They had the fucking kids from Logan Heights in San Diego. They were fucking Mexican fucking gangbangers and shit. They took all those people down and they worked fucking for the Ariano Felix organization. So I think they got into it as much as they could have gotten into it without stepping on people's toes. Because there would just be a war then. If they cut the Mexicans out or they cut this one out, it's just, we don't have if we could grow cocaine here or produce cocaine here, well, then the mafia, the Italian LCN would probably have the whole thing sewed up. But, they got to go through someone else.
So in Bobby's interview, so Bobby brings us to the 90s, right? Early 2000s, more recent. So I just found a few things interesting. Bobby had a direct connect to a Colombian cartel, but there wasn't and this is what I'm kind of learning, and call me dumb, but I'm kind of getting how the mob works more and more after I interview these guys. It's really like kind of a selfish organization. And here's what I mean. It's like, you got to kick up, right? No matter what level you're at, right? And like, what are the benefits? Okay, you're a made guy. Nobody can touch you. Maybe you get certain rackets, you can muscle in. But like when I was asking Bobby, I'm like, oh, did you kind of go to the Philly mob or the Patriarchas? Did they introduce you to the cartel? He's like, no. I'm like, okay. And then he was like, and this is not a knock on Bobby in any way. If anything, Bobby was entrepreneurial. Then we're like, hey, how did you wash your money? Right. And he was making upwards of 7 figures a year cash. So I'm like, oh, did the Philly mob kind of have their de facto launderers? He's like, no, I had to do it myself. So I'm sitting there. I'm like, why did you need your button? Because he was a street guy. He had a crew. But I guess it was the allure of being protected or having that button or having that stripe. So that's what I think also hurt the mob too, is they don't have that infrastructure or that like systemic, like in Sicily, like there's politicians in the mob. There's like allegedly judges in the mob. There's a thing called high mafia, which are generally businessmen and tax collectors. The two biggest tax collectors were mafiosi themselves, and they eventually died, the Lima brothers or cousins. But anyway, so you get what I'm saying? Like, it just seems like the lack of systemic infrastructure and relationship is kind of what did them in,
Right. Yeah, I mean,
100%.
I tend to think, though, they were involved pretty heavy in drugs. Like this guy, obviously, look at Carmine Galante and his whole fucking thing.
Yeah, but that happened, like we were saying, Joe, I think up until the early 80s, the mob was heroin in New York, 100%. Yeah. And once Galante got chopped off, because I did, and I was saying this, like I did a video about this today. Like when you look back, like we could probably count on, 2 hands how many really big time heroin dealers there were, but they literally controlled it, like through the French Connection and everything.
Well, look at the Pizza Connection.
Right.
Yeah. That was the mid 80s.
But once that ended, by then Giuliani and everyone was coming down on the mob.
Yeah.
All the high ups, Gigante, Salerno, all these different people kind of outlawed it. And there was some stuff still going on, but by that point, I feel like it had passed them by, and we had other groups that were really doing the big wholesaling by that point. And now we look at today, the mafia, at least in this country, is no piece of the pie. The transnational gangs of the world control the flow of drugs in our universe.
Yeah, it's not even a factor. If let's just say in the 50s, a cartel were to come in and they wanted to kind of muscle in and start doing coke, the mob would have said either we'll distribute it for you or you got to pay protection because we got you. Because they had politicians, they had the police, they had that infrastructure. So I think it's a lack of infrastructure is what did them in.
And
so
Tom, you look at as well, like you look at in Italy, in Naples, for instance, the Camorra's literally only way of earning is through the drug trade. They don't really do traditional mob shit anymore.
Correct. Little construction. They also smuggle a lot of cigarettes because in Italy,
but they're not doing like bookmaking, and if they're not doing that,
yeah, correct. They're not.
They're
really
controlling whole neighborhoods.
Correct.
Open their drug markets, basically.
Correct.
Why are they not? Why are they not? Don't have bookmakers out there?
Because they look at it as they're not going to. They almost look at it as we're not going to. They don't want to. In other words, they don't want to hurt their community. That's it's a weird way of thinking, but everyone is involved in the drug trade. Yeah. Like if you've ever seen Gomorrah, that kind of illustrates how they do things. But they don't want to extort their people because those are their people, but they'll sell them drugs. But as long as you're buying from us, we'll make sure everything. It's a weird way of thinking, but that's how they think, weirdly enough.
It's funny because you're saying they have no fucking bookmakers or gambling over there. And all I think of is my fucking grandparents and every other Italian in my family. with the numbers, the gambling, the shooting dice, the cards. That's all they did was fucking gamble. So,
well, I think, and Rob, if you could answer this, in the Sicilian mob in Sicily, Cosa Nostra, is I don't think they're allowed to charge interest to other wise guys. Versus Panisi told me a wise guy rate was a half a point a week, which is still kind of high if you think about it. But in Italy, you're not supposed to give interest to another wise guy, which is a totally different dynamic. You know?
It's funny too, because I saw like during the pandemic that like all these mafia groups, they're going to the citizens and saying, we're here to help. The government isn't. We're
Correct.
The government. If
Correct.
you need some, we'll give you it. And they almost act as Robin Hood, right? Like, we're going to help you get by. We're going to help your business get by. Now, again, in the grand scheme of things, they're killing them on the back end. But
correct.
Desperate people are desperate, and they need money, and they're willing to pay 20%. Like, they'll pay whatever they have to pay. So they're looked there as the government, and that's always been the way of Italy. You go back to the 10s, the 1900s.
Yeah.
You don't think they in Italy fucking gamble when it comes to like soccer and shit like that? They live for that shit.
Not like we do. They have the machines in the in the like the cafes and stuff, and they have machines, but not like we do.
Man, what do you mean not like we do? How do
they
we
don't
do?
Really like you're not betting like €500 on like the Parma game. It just not in the culture. In Italy, I'm talking about.
Everywhere?
In Italy, gambling illegally is not nearly as big as the U.S. It's also cultural for them. Like they love their sport. They don't want to gamble on it. Like they'll kill somebody over the sport, not over money. It's weird. Italians have a weird set of logic and systems. That's why they went through like 50 governments in like 45 years. It's just.
In this country, gambling is fucking huge. Like multi-billion-dollar year business. In Italy, as he said, it's more of a passion thing. You root for your club in your town or your city or wherever. So
maybe, but look, I'm not from Italy, so I don't know, but truthfully, I don't even give a fuck about Italy. I'm American Italian. That's completely different than Italian.
Man, but Joe, you gotta watch Gomorrah, man. You would love that.
I started watching it. Yeah,
you'd like it, Joe. Here's the other thing about Gomorrah. They really treat the guys in Gomorrah like they really are. Like, I'm sorry, but Camorristi are like, they're kind of scumbags. They're scumbags. And they don't sugarcoat these guys in Gomorrah. They're not walking around with pinky rings and like
housing projects.
Yeah.
But
the structure. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. No. Go ahead.
Yeah, they dedicate their life.
No, I'm saying no gambling in Italy. Vinny will never fucking go to Italy then.
I wouldn't say there's no gambling. It's just
he'd be fucking forget about it. He'd be shell shocked.
Well, the other
going through withdrawals.
Well, the other thing is, and we could probably do this together, and I could send you guys info. I had somebody research what mafiosi make in the U.S. and throughout the world. And it varies. Associate can make from 60 to 80 and up. I don't want to give too much away. But in the Camorra and in Dragara, they actually get a stipend and a salary. They get a rank, and the money flows down then up. So that's another reason I believe they have less turncoats is when the money comes down, then you need that money and you rely on the organization, right? First, if it goes up, you're kicking up. It's like, well, what do I need you for? And this is not a statement on Bobby. If anything, Bobby was probably a hustler and probably knew more people than most, especially in Boston. I was just really shocked that then we went into, well, why did you get busted, Bobby? Right. and he had a crew, 800 years. Yeah. He had a crew that he really worried about, and he was worried about the guy Previty sent up, right? The guy who was on Value Entertainment was a former, FBI guy and took down Bobby, right? So who
was on Bet David? I'm sorry. What was his name?
He was I got to remember. I forget the name. If anybody could drop the name. It was a guy that posed as an undercover called Irish Mike, and Previty sent him up because he wanted to do business. The only reason why Bobby met with him, if you watch the interview, is because Joey kind of pushed him on it. And again, so number one, Bobby couldn't have stood on ceremony, followed what the boss did. He got fucked there, right?
Are you talking about that guy, Mike? I think Mike McQuiggan or something like that.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
He's got like a mustache, right?
Yeah, it's a weird mustache. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
he's a big undercover.
So number one is like Bobby did not want to deal with Previty. I even asked him like, I'm sorry, but like you call me what you want. I saw Previty on TV. He's a slimy dude. I'm sorry. Like I know mom's
Previty.
Yeah, like I don't get why.
Wait a minute, he's dead. So fuck that. I mean, it's sad talking about that Previty. He's a fucking douchebag. But he's gone. So I don't know.
So what I want to get at is the reason why I think Bobby got tripped up. Number one, he followed the rules in a sense where he followed the boss, right? But yet he wasn't following the rules that he was doing drugs. He wasn't supposed to. So number one, they were fucking real with each other. Like, hey, we're doing drugs, but we're going to follow the same protocol. Bobby probably would have signed an associate to him. And then hopefully that associate would be isolating Bobby and he wouldn't get pinched, right? Well, Bobby did the opposite. And I'm just giving you his point of view. He cared about his guy. So what he did was, I'll work with Irish Mike. So if there's a pinch, it's on me. I don't want to jam up my crew. Now, I actually believe Bobby about that because I heard from a lot of people, Bobby was untouchable in the 80s and 90s. So it's like, again, why did he do that? Because it was against the rules and there wasn't like an infrastructure. So like, again, I don't see this whole thing surviving because it doesn't make sense. If you deal drugs and you show up the envelope, that's okay, but you can't deal drugs. The issue should be like, you know what? Let's fucking deal drugs or really not. You can't half-ass it. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah, I guess so.
And it seemed like since the 80s, the mob kind of did that with drugs. They did a little, but not too much, and they didn't really get into the more, profitable.
Thank you, Louis.
Like cocaine.
Louis, I'm more of an interview guy. I do these freestyles, so check out my old interviews. If you still feel it's terrible, then I can't help you out. Let me just see. Oops. All right. The other thing I was surprised at was that Bobby was telling me, he didn't say this publicly, but when he was buying the coke, the Colombian guy was like, why don't you deal with the guys from New York? And he's like, why? And he's like, well, we send 3,000 kilos a month to New York to the Italians. Now, what my research is showing him, I'm guessing, is I think some of it stays in New York and there are some Italian drug dealers, but I think it gets transshipped to Italy, or that's actually Ndagara or the Cosa Nostra buying it for Europe. Because I saw that was interesting that he was saying a lot of coke diverts to New York and it's for Italians.
Yeah, I think there is some street dealing. I mean, if you look at some of the younger farm crews, some of the ones that we talk about in here occasionally, they were selling drugs. I mean, Scarpa's kids and some of those groups. But yeah, I don't think there was a ton of it going on. Maybe 100 kilos or something, but nothing crazy, I wouldn't think.
Got it. Yeah. So the other thing is the whole like Gotti era. Let's go to Gotti era and let's go current, right?
Oh, Tom, hold on. Let me just ask you something about Luisi. I know we moved on. When he was in Boston, right? Who was he? He was untouchable, but was he an inducted member up there?
Okay,
what was his crew up there?
He has a really interesting story. So his father, was a street guy. His brothers were street guys. I don't know if you guys know. Did you hear what happened at the 99?
They got killed. Yeah.
Yeah. So his brother, I think two of his brothers, a cousin, his father. Yeah. So what happened after that point was Bobby had a crew. Bobby was very strong. As friendly I am with Bobby, I don't know the story. He had a run-in with the Patriarch, I think Capo or somebody powerful with the Patriarchs at the time. And there was just oil and water. This guy was like, I think had a hard on for Bobby. Could be Bobby was very powerful. I don't know, right? I could always ask Bobby personally, but what I got is there was something blocking him from being the Patriarchs, right? But it was a street guy. He had a crew of probably 10 capable guys around him, and then he had a ton of associates. So he supposedly approached Peter Gotti at the time, and Peter Gotti said no. For some reason he said no. He's like, we can't get it past the commission. I think the commission was still kind of around back then. I don't know if Peter was like giving him lip service, but at the end of the day, he said no. He went to Joey Molino, and what I understand about Joey, and Nadu probably knows of him better, is he's a big money guy. If you can make him some money and it's reasonable, he's in. He's very loyal to his local crew, of course. but he's also a smart business guy in terms of the mob stuff. So obviously they worked out a deal. Some people believe that Bobby bought his button. I don't believe so. I think Bobby was just a big earner and then happened to give a lot, right? Which makes it easier. Now, interesting enough is for some reason, and John Panisi and I got into this a little bit, but we didn't get it deep enough. Vecchia Musso was working really hard to block Bobby from being with Philly, and because he had a relationship with the Patriarchas. That part I don't know. If somebody knows in the comments, let me know. But for some reason, Vecchia Musso had a hard on for Bobby, didn't want him to get made. So at any rate, so he got made with Philly. He had a group of 7 or 8 made guys, and he had about 100 associates, and they were pretty powerful. The last part, sorry for the verbal diarrhea, is allegedly he had a deal with Joey to do 2 years on his own, 2 years with him, then break off on his own to actually start the Luisi family. I believe it, but I don't think Bobby has a reason to lie, but that's my understanding of his.
The Luisi family, you mean the Luisi crew?
Well, I mean, some families are small, like 35, 40 people. Remember, Bobby had about 100 associates under him outside of his made guys. So if he were to crew up, I would assume 15 to 20
were probably the big boys would have had to sign off on that, honestly.
But I think what happened is after Patriarchus Senior died, Junior took over, was a shit show. The Anjulas went away, and there was a war in Boston in the 90s. And Boston, although there was more bodies dropping in Boston than in New York at the time, but just Boston never really got its act together. You kind of had it wasn't the old days of Patriarcha or Providence who controlled Boston. So I think I slid into the power vacuum.
It's kind of like Springfield with the Genoveses, Tom.
Yes, that is correct. So that's what happened, and it was like, well, wait a second. What do we do now? And then he hooked up with Joey. He was a very big earner. I mean, people can kind of say what they want about Bobby, but he was a big earner. He was very capable. He was a serious guy. He loved the life. And then he was actually willing to go away for the 10 years. And that was part of his plan. So if he got pinched, he would take a 10-year pinch. He made his money. He bought the condo in Florida and then see you later. Then guys started rolling against him, and they had a death deal with him. And then allegedly he was going to flip, gave them info. The deal died at the last minute, and then I don't believe he ever took the stand. So again, I know there's a little mixed reviews on that.
In most families by the 90s, if you could be talked about by other people and you made money, I'm going to guarantee most of the smaller, at least the smaller, maybe not the Genoveses or somebody like that, but a smaller type of family would say, okay, you can come with us.
Yeah.
We're willing to take your money. You can jump in what we're doing here. But by that point you're trying to make money. And in the 90s, it was starting to tail off a little bit. I don't think it would have been as easy in the 60s to do that, but
yeah. Well, that's the thing. I don't think there was any the local presence. Also, Bobby and I kind of like this about him. He was a little cocky. He's like, well, what are they going to do? He was very strong. I spent time with Paul. I joke around, but if you had 5 Pauls, and then some earners and a good capo, you're good. Paul, go sit down, have espresso with you, laugh with you, joke with you, but he will rip your fucking head off. There's no two ways about it. I spent time with him and I love him to death, but he scares me more than a lot of other mobsters I hung out with, because he seems like a guy that is a good guy and fun, will kill for you. But if it ever comes to you having to go and you're on the wrong side of the situation, you're going. So, I just think Bobby had a strong crew,
You got to ask yourself, Tom, and we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
If you're someone so I did a video on Jimmy Napoli, right? He was a guy that made tons of money in the numbers rackets, had connections, knew a ton of
Jimmy
people.
Knapp was a whale. He actually was a one who
he knew Fred Trump. He was big in real estate, but he made it clear for long periods in his life he didn't want a button. He was making a ton of money. He had major respect. Yeah. And you look back at guys that didn't have a button. Let's just look at Jimmy Burke.
You were thinking, you said you were referring to Long John as the one that wasn't made?
No, Jimmy Napoli was a guy.
Oh, Jimmy Napoli. Okay.
Jimmy Knapp, yeah.
All right.
But
sorry.
He even said, I don't want the button. I'm good being an associate. I don't need to be. if you're Bobby Luisi, like, why not just do your thing? Like, why do you even give a shit about being like with someone else?
You know it is. You're a kid,
Or just stay
and
in Boston.
that's all you know. That's all.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like the Yankees are still the Yankees to Joe and me. To you, I don't know if it's the Phillies, and it's always like that's who you wanted to be. So to get that button, but yeah, I know.
If he was making money, they would have took a piece of his ass. That's what people don't. Maybe everyone does realize, but if you're gonna, make money or whatever, they're coming for you one way or another, and there's nothing you could do about it really. So being made, it does help you. You have the backing now of Philly. There's a war going on in Boston.
Correct.
So maybe
Philly. Yeah.
I guess for me, like, I just would kind of just say, if I'm in that life, like, I'd be perfectly fine being an associate. I'll make as much money as I can. And again, it's going to take a while because if you look at Napoli, he didn't get jammed up until the 80s when he became a capo and got jammed up in that Bobby Manna thing. So, like, it's just kind of crazy. I would have
a lot of positives and negatives, because even, truth of the matter is, an inducted member as opposed to an associate is a fucking huge difference. You know what I mean? It's not like, these guys, you're a made guy, they have to respect you, the people that are friends of yours, you know what I mean? Yeah. And they really can't fuck you over out of money, and they gotta, like I'm your brother, basically, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of clout that goes with it too.
Well, yeah, that's true. I guess as Tom said, it's kind of the dream, right? You're a baseball player. Your dream is to play for the Yankees. It's like, I get it. It's just, I guess it depends on how connected you are. But
Kid's Nice makes a good point. You're kicking up no matter what. Might as well be made. But I will say this. I remember reading. I want to do a show on it. We should all do it together. The Men of Honor or Man of Honor from Tommaso Buscetta. I know the irony that he wrote that, but he said in one of his quotes that I don't want to be a mafiosi for the money. I could make money. It's what happened when I walked into a room and a man would sit up straight. I'm paraphrasing, or the way people reacted to me when I walked into a room that I was a man of honor. That's why I wanted to be a mafiosi. Now we could argue it may have less shine on it now, but again, I'm going by my former co-host. He said there was a big disparity in many ways between a guy who got a stripe and an associate,
I seen one time my old man was having a fucking dispute with a made guy. Okay. The made guy put his hands on my old man, but my old man couldn't do anything about it. You know what I mean? He just could not, because, getting slapped in the face is different than getting a bullet in your head. And back then they killed you for that.
Yeah.
So there's a big difference. If you become a made member, you could lie, cheat, and steal legitimately, basically. Yeah. So you got a license to steal.
Ask Paul Galino about what happens when you push somebody. We all know about that situation.
Of all people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I heard that story, but I don't know, man. Because he had a big drug thing going on. I mean, would he be stupid enough to push Spiro? He's got to know that would be a fucking death sentence.
But you remember, he was running around with Tommy Patera. He's getting a little, thinking he's arrogant, doing his thing. It ain't going to be a big deal. Maybe he didn't think, maybe he thought he was untouchable at that point. He ain't going to kill me. I've known him since I was a kid,
Yeah.
If Tommy Karate was on the streets, he would have never pushed Spiro. I mean, because, Tommy Karate would have to kill him. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think it has more to do with the drug operation. The guy put a bullet in his head and fucking took over his drug operation. So maybe, but they say that he pushed him. He did this. From what I know of Spiro, he wouldn't even meet with people. That's the other thing. Maybe he met with Paulie G. I don't know. But Spiro was like,
he knew those kids since they were kids.
Right.
Maybe he was not as quick to say, you know what, the kid's young, like, I don't know. I do think it's far fetched that he just killed the kid because he might have shoved him or something. I don't know. We'll never know, I guess.
No, my uncle, my Johnny Fountains, my uncle grew up with the Scabettas, mainly Nicky Scabetta.
Yeah.
Who is
oh, shit, really?
Yeah. They were on 15th Avenue, like a block away. They went to school. They were best friends. But yeah, he told me. I know I read this too, but there was a rumor going around that they fucking found his hand or whatever. They chopped him up. So,
really
that
quick,
was
guys.
crazy.
Really quick. I have a little bit of daddy duty. You guys hang out. I made Father Time said I don't want to put too much pressure on it because I know if you can't hang out. I made Rob Lito and I like mods along with Father Time. So we have 3 mods. So if the comments go awry, just tell the mods to do the job. You guys continue. I'll be right back, guys.
Hey Joe, let me ask you. So Joe DeChico did an interview. This came
Butter ass.
Yeah, he came out in the 90s. It came out in the 90s. I think.
Yeah, I know who you talk. Butter ass. My grandfather grew up with butter ass.
Well, he did that interview, and he said that Nicky Scabetta, when he was killed, he claims that the family dog.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's
true?
That's a true rumor. Yeah, I heard it from my uncle.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy.
It's a true fucking thing. And you know what? He got killed in the late 70s, and you want to know who might have took that fucking assignment? Was Mr. fucking Gemini Lounge crew, and they chop you up.
Right. Interesting that that story I heard, and I was thinking like that can't be. That's crazy.
Yeah, man. But Tweety, yeah, that's fucking crazy. But they were the Scabettas. My uncle always spoke highly of the mother and father, and she had a twin sister. Fucking whatchamacallit, Sammy's wife has a twin sister. What?
Deborah Scabetta, yeah.
Yep, and I think it's Diane is the sister, but she spoke. Even my mom knows them. Spoke very highly of them. Good people, weren't connected with no street shit. They worked. You know what I mean? Yep. So, yep. But
why they butter ass?
I have no fucking idea. But I know my grandfather. That's what he called them, butter ass.
Thank you, Philip. Appreciate that, man. You're very nice.
I'm telling you, man, he would. If this internet shit, this YouTube was fucking 20 fucking years ago, let me tell you, he'd be a fucking top guy on it.
Who?
Is that
Butter ass?
Joey DeChico, yeah, butter ass.
Oh yeah, he loved to talk, it seemed like.
Yeah. But the thing is this, he did that interview. I saw a little snippet of it, and he was just looking out for Gotti. Yeah, exactly. He was, and that's funny because one thing I noticed that people, so the people that I've talked to in the streets that are Italian and possibly have some status, pretty much all of them spoke highly of Gotti. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like he's a scumbag, blah, blah, blah. They blame fucking Gravano for bringing the house down.
Right.
So I don't know where this comes from, where everybody on the street hated him. Frankie Lowe hated him. I mean,
yeah, I don't
never heard it. And I'm telling you, I know people that know him or knew him.
I mean, anyone in that family, all they say, they adored him. They're everyone around him.
Yeah, my friend in Vegas, Johnny Conti, he used to fucking be with John. And he was with a different outfit. And
John
he said he was a good guy.
But I don't know how you couldn't like the guy.
Well, the thing is, the only people that are fucking really speaking about fucking John Gotti are turncoats.
Yeah.
So you think they're going to have something good to say about him?
Yeah.
Because anybody, a street guy is not going to come on a show and say, Gotti was the best, we did this. You're only hearing one side of the story. So that's why I'm a little leery sometimes with the cooperators. They have, like, really, Sammy? You blame everything on Gotti? You were fucking at the club every day. You were walking down the block with holding the fucking umbrella and doing all that. What, you had to do that? Should have told John, look, I'll come down for 10 minutes or whatever, but I've got to run this over here. he was fucking part of that whole thing. So
don't get me started on him. I might say something bad again.
But
on
one
who?
thing I will
On
say
who?
is,
on that piece of shit Gravano.
one thing I will say, and I don't know if it was you, that Sammy Gravano like was powerful. You know what I mean? Like he was.
Can I say what I said? I didn't say that he wasn't powerful. I said, in the grand scheme of history, as an underboss, he couldn't hold a fucking candle to other underbosses.
Right.
He had
Okay.
a 5-year run. That's what I'm saying.
Right. We talked about it last night.
Yeah.
That's what. Okay. So I understand now.
Yeah.
But well, no, 5-year run. Yeah, on top, but he was a pretty big guy in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
In the 70s and 80s. You know, I think Sammy why would he team up with Gotti? Okay, so what happened was Frankie DeChico gets killed. That's fine, right? That's great. And
well, Joe, there's
John
a lot
brings
of...
you in. John brings you into the inner circle. Well, he didn't have to bring you in.
Right.
You know what I mean? He wanted in Sammy.
There was, I don't know if Rob would know this. He was a Queens guy. And I would have asked maybe some friends that I know who knew these guys, but there were some very, very powerful captains in Brooklyn at the time. Jimmy Brown.
Jimmy Brown's so underrated, man.
Yeah. Danny Marino, Johnny G, who was I think he was a soldier at the time, but very powerful, big earner. So you had a strong contingency. I always felt that the Gambinos were stronger in Brooklyn, much stronger in Brooklyn than any other borough, just my humble opinion. Because most of the people growing up were mostly Gambinos, and they were mostly from your area, Bensonhurst, Diker Heights, and so forth. So he had to have some contingency in Brooklyn represented. So I guess, and let's be honest, you want to be Machiavellian and strategic and all that, it had to be somebody that you can control. Like if you bring a Jimmy Brown or a Danny Marino or somebody who's seasoned, my opinion is you may not be able to control them or tell them what to do. You generally elevate a person who's not as strong, but keeps the Brooklyn guys happy. That's why Locascio was a consigliere or underboss or whatever it was, because he had to keep the Bronx happy. They were pretty strong in the Bronx too, the Gambinos at the time.
Yep.
You know?
Now, if anything, no one's ever said a bad word about him in the streets. Locascio, because he was... You know, I mean, obviously he did what he had to do, but Sammy makes it seem like he hated his fucking guts. Well, I don't know about that, because he damn sure got up at the end when he was getting sentenced with the judge for that case with Gotti. He says the world would be a better place if there were more men like John Gotti. You know, maybe he said that for his son because his son was still on the street, but to me, it really doesn't seem that, you know, that's the case.
I'm going to say this too. I've been carrying this water for a while, and I've been, again, I don't know if everyone will agree with it. I think Gravano was the one that did the car bomb on DeChico.
No way. No.
Why? He wanted a spot.
No, he didn't do that because, because listen, here's how I know this for a fact. What Gas Pipe did is what only Gas Pipe would do. That was fucking 86th Street in Bay 8. It was a fucking beautiful day. It was a Sunday. You know how many fucking innocent people could have been fucking hurt with that bomb? It wasn't like they did it on a fucking side street. You know what I mean? 86th Street is busy.
Your buddy thinks it was him too.
Who?
DeChico says that.
Yeah, but, well, why?
Well, it's his nephew.
Exactly. Why? Because he ratted, you know, or he cooperated. I'm sorry.
And Gas Pipe could have made it look like it was him. You know, they could have blamed it on him. Gravano knew that they would have thought it was Gas Pipe, so it worked perfectly.
Yeah, but that bomb was fucking crazy, bro.
I hear you, though.
I was a block and a half away. It was like a fucking earthquake.
Really?
I ran and looked out the window. I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
Go back to eat. The next day, I find out. And at that point, I was like 10 years old. So it wasn't like, oh, Frankie D, I know him. It was just a mafioso got killed. And then later, I would learn who it was.
How loud was it? It was real loud.
Oh, forget about it, man. Loud as fucking... I'm telling you, we were a block and a half away up the street, and it fucking shook the fucking house.
Wow.
And I remember I ran right to the fucking window, and my grandmother had the window open as always on the second floor. So it was fucking crazy, man.
That's nuts.
That's so dangerous, you know, because what happens if when he goes to his car, DeChico, that people are not by the car, they would have to set the bomb off, because if they didn't do that, he would have detected it, DeChico. Or what were they going to do when he pulled away? So the timing had to be, when he gets to his car, we better do this, or we might not have another chance. So,
yeah, but I always wondered, and maybe Rob could answer this, but it kind of went unanswered. Like Borriello, him, and Gotti was a strong guy. He had 300 strong, thousands of associates.
Didn't they try to kill Gas Pipe?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was more Ruggiero. I think
that was September 14th, 1986.
Where were you when that happened?
September.
You were 11, right?
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying, do you recall that when it happened, it was kind of a big deal, obviously.
The thing is this: there's so much shit that fucking went on in that neighborhood that some of the shit I forgot. I'm telling you, every street corner someone was killed on Bay 8th. 2 guys over here, 1 guy here, this one, that one. It was fucking crazy fucking times, man.
But you remember, Tom, the Borriello thing?
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the many mistakes by Junior. Junior didn't do anything about that. He let the Genoveses walk all over him with that. He let them walk all over him a couple different times.
Supposedly, Chin would meet with Junior. I don't know if that's true.
He did meet with Junior.
Angelo would have never did that without Gotti's approval. No fucking way. No.
Yeah, but there has to be plausible deniability. Otherwise, if
Nah, he would not take out. He would look, man. He was stupid, but realistically, they sent 3 fucking momos on the hit. You know what I mean? You're going to kill a fucking. He's basically a captain at that point. He's Christy Tick's right-hand man.
Yeah. So
they send these 3 bumbling idiots. When Gotti took out fucking what's-his-face, Castellano, you had the fucking cream of the crop hitman. You know what I mean? Johnny Kniggs and fucking Tony Roach or whatever these guys. They didn't fuck around, those guys.
Yeah.
So, but I don't think he would do it without Gotti's approval or wink or some shit. But
let me ask you this. So with Carlo Gambino dying in 76 and people think like Castellano was just there for a minute. He was a boss for 9-10 years, right? Then he gets killed, and Gotti respectfully on the street only had a 6-year run, and it was plagued by like 4 or 5 trials, right? So it's like, why do you think there was such an eagerness to like take over? And then I'm sorry, but I don't know if you can characterize the Gotti era as being a successful mob boss business-wise or even gangster-wise. I don't see it. What do you guys think?
The thing is, so Castellano was the acting boss even before Carlo died. Okay.
Really?
Yeah, he was running it basically because the old man was sick. And
that's an old Sicilian thing too. Like your kids marry the other kids, right. Like your daughter married Lucchese's daughter, and then like in the Sicilian tradition, you want to give that to a family. It's really supposed to be a family. So keep going, Joe. Sorry.
With Gotti, it was just a matter of timing, and what I mean by that is, if you hear these FBI agents talk, in 1980, they didn't know who's who. They knew nothing. You know what I mean? That's when they started fucking, getting this idea of who's what. There was no open investigations against a lot of these guys. So in 81, Reagan gave so much fucking money to fight organized crime.
Yep.
That from 1981 on, it was an onslaught. You know what I mean? If John was the boss in 1975, he probably would have lasted 8-9 years on the street because it just was a completely different time, especially with the bugging equipment and stuff like that, the lip readers and all this technology they had. So,
yeah, but I see Carlo Gambino still being successful in the 80s. He would have still stayed in his apartment. I don't see him getting caught on bugs. I see you in the tight circle. Like, you know, I'm obsessed with the business aspect of things. And I get why you want to make every captain report. You know, you want to plant and show your flag. That's great for businesses. It's terrible for gangsters, you know?
They had Big Paul on tape. That's another thing. Everybody disses Gotti with these fucking tapes, right? Like, oh, he did this, he did that, he killed the boss, he's talking on the tapes. Name me a fucking boss in the 70s and 80s that didn't get picked up on a fucking wiretap.
And remember, he's so right about this. Tony Ducks Crowell was on tape more than anybody.
I mean, in the fucking Jaguar.
Yeah, exactly.
Good point.
You know, and what about Ralph Scopo? They got him.
They
had Fat Tony's Club, right?
Jerry
That's
Lang.
Between a Fat Tony and a Sammy, okay? Because Fat Tony could have said, Chin, you're throwing me under the bus because I'm not really the fucking boss.
True.
And what do you think Chin did? Nah, man, fuck it. So should Fat Tony have cooperated? Because, hey, man, this guy threw me under the bus. He sandbagged me. I didn't know. You know, I wasn't the boss.
G. He ain't going to do that.
Right, but Sammy did it, and that's the difference between the two. So, in the tapes, they had tapes on everybody, man. Neil Delacroce, they had his fucking living room bugged.
If anyone says to me, like, oh, John brought this mafia down, it's like, no, he didn't. Everyone was on tape. I mean, everyone and their fucking mother was on tape.
Yeah, but the other thing is, the fucking FBI started getting their shit together in the 80s. You know, prior to that, you know, and like 1970, Blakey wrote that fucking the Rico Act, but they didn't use it for a while.
Yeah, they didn't know how.
And now look at what they're using it on. They're not using it. They're not just Italian organized crime. They're fucking using it against fucking the Bloods and the Crips and shit like that, you know, and just so
yeah, they use it against everybody.
Yeah, but yeah, he was. Well, another thing is, I remember the Castellano hit, and
do you really?
Yeah, because one of my best friends, his name was Anthony Masato, okay, and he was related. His family was related to Big Paul. I'm not sure exactly what they were, cousins or whatever, but yep. They were fucking related to him. And I remember my friend Anthony telling me he had to go to a fucking wake. We were like 10, 11 years old.
Do you remember like that night on TV or anything? Like
No.
Or anything? You know?
No. I don't remember. Yeah, a lot of them, no. Because at that point in my life, you know, you're a kid. I'm looking to go shoot hoops, you know what I mean? You really don't get mixed up in that shit.
But I just like remember like when I was like 10 years old, Columbine happened, like that school shooting, and it was like it's all you saw on TV when you were a kid.
Yeah, and Rob Lito, Tommy Masato, that was my friend Anthony's uncle. So, and he was, you know, like I said, they were relatives of him.
Joe, you seen this football game? Do you got that on?
No. All my undivided attention is to you, bro.
This is sickening. I have the over 24-21. Pitt's driving. They're at the 20-yard line. Just coast, kick a field goal. We go to overtime. I hit the over. This fucking third string backup motherfucker. There was a fucking pick six. Fuck you, bitch.
What? Is this on ESPN, the game?
Yeah, they were in field goal range. This little fuck throws a pick six, goes the other way, and I'm going to fucking lose now. Watch this. Look at this. Look at this fucking throw, Joe. Look at this fucking throw. Minchia. It's fucking terrible. What the fuck are you throwing to here, bro? Minchia.
Oh, shit. Oh, man. He threw it right to the...
Dreadful, man. Oh, my God, bro. You're in field goal range. Just run the fucking ball, you fucking clowns. You got a third-string quarterback in. What the fuck are you throwing it for, you fucking morons? Narduzzi,
he thought that linebacker might be blitzing.
Why not run?
He dropped back.
Field goal range.
Threw it right to him.
Field goal. Fucking dick. Come on, give me a kick six here one time.
So, what's the line on it? The game?
Wow. The over-under is 55.
55.
If it goes to overtime, I win. I mean, it's so sickening. You fucking idiot.
Well, if they could get you need 6 points right now because they're not going to kick a field
No,
goal.
it would have went to overtime and I would have hit it, Joe. Now it's not.
No, I know. Yeah, definitely. Over. Yep, definitely.
Game's over.
Unfucking real.
Fucking pricks, man.
They call that a bad beat, homie. That's why I don't gamble. I only gamble on short things.
I mean, that kid's a third-string quarterback, Joe. That kid.
Unfucking real.
So I got here late. What game is that?
That is bowl game. Pittsburgh and Michigan State.
Okay.
The Chick-fil-A Bowl. My
Interesting.
wife loves Chick-fil-A.
Wait, they canceled the what happened to the Barstool Bowl? They canceled that.
Yeah,
what happened there? Why? COVID?
COVID, yeah.
But is it?
And the team, listen, Tom, the team that one of the teams that was playing, the other team that didn't have COVID, they went to like a better bowl game. They just left and went to another one.
Really?
So they had to cancel, yeah.
Was that like a legacy bowl that was, the Nadu bowl, and then they took it over and bought the name, or
no, there was
that a new bowl?
Oh no, it was the Arizona Bowl. They just put their names on it, basically.
And they went to a better one.
Yeah, they went to the Sun Bowl, which is a CBS game. It's like a better
game.
It's in Texas. Yeah.
See, I to get back to media for a second. I get what Barstool's trying to do. They want to be new media. They want to, hey, we'll have our own bowl. They don't need a network. They have their own YouTube. They have their own website. They have their own Instagram. Some cable channel eventually. I get what they're trying to do, but it's like, I don't know if they can. Because remember, they're also like a gambling company. Like, I can't imagine sometimes, and you don't have to answer this if you don't have
There's
to.
There's a lot of conflict of interest.
Well, I can't imagine. Not even like just from the like. I can't imagine there's guys at Penn Corporate, right, that are sitting there and like, you know what? I get the pizza thing. I get the rough and rowdy. I get all this stuff. I just want people to sign up for our app. You know what I mean? Like. Right. As far as does that happen?
I think they just look at it a lot as just like it's all promotion, right? Like you can, people that don't know what Barstool is, maybe they somehow find the sports book and they can advertise during the game, and it's a big thing. But it's funny, Tom. Real quick, did you see the dunk tank thing we did?
I did. You hit it first shot.
Yeah. So it was funny that day. It was like a week before the fight. I was in New York for that, obviously. I had to go up to Manhattan. Yeah. And all the higher-ups from Penn were in the office that day. I got into it with someone at the office, and I was running around screaming, and I felt bad after the fact because there was all these fucking corporate people there.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. But
Tom, you mentioned it to me. You said he fucking threw like a girl, so.
But the first one, but maybe the ring. Just kidding. The first one he did hit. He palmed it, which was odd. He palmed it. Like, what the fuck's he doing? And he hit it. I'll give him that.
Well, since we're talking about boxing, so I'm a big boxing fan, obviously. And have you guys heard of the Boxing Hall of Fame up in Canastota?
No,
I've heard.
Jeff, okay, so 2019 was the last time they had the induction ceremony because of COVID. That's when Teddy Atlas got in. I went up there. So I went up there for a weekend, and I went to the banquet dinner where I sat with fucking Hagler, Buddy McGirt, all in one room.
Wow.
Crazy. I got all their autographs right in front of me. They signed gloves. Wow. It was like 175 or 150 a pop. Me, my brother, and my cousin went, which leads me to the next thing. So 2020 was canceled. 2021 was canceled. In 2022, they think they're going to have it in June. Now, they're taking 3 years worth of fucking boxers and putting them in. Yes. So hold on a minute. So Shane Mosley's getting in, Juan Manuel Marquez, Bernard Hopkins, Andre Ward, Vladimir Klitschko, Floyd Mayweather, Holly Holm, Miguel Cotto, Roy Jones Jr., James Toney. We should go to that because that's fucking going to be like, they're all going to come to it. You know what I mean?
People there. Yeah.
So I got the, I fucking donate to the fucking Boxing Hall of Fame. So they give me a head start if I want to get tickets or whatever. It's $175.
Where's it?
And it's at the Turning Stone Casino in Verona, New York. It's like about 30, 40 minutes from Syracuse.
That's cool.
So,
That's good shit, actually.
Yeah, I'm thinking Vinny's going to go.
But, Joe, you didn't say something, though. You know I'm accepting an invite as well into the Hall of Fame after my illustrious career.
Yeah, I know.
Yo,
What Hall of Fame is that? That's the podcasting Hall of Fame.
No, the Boxing Hall of Fame, bro.
The boxing, yeah. You got to get a couple of more fights under your belt. You never know.
By the way,
can
you tell us what Teddy Atlas said to you in the gym one time?
This fucking session is closed. Get the fuck out of here. He didn't know me at the time.
You ever hear about that, Tom?
No.
Joe was a little kid in like the boxing gym trying to.
No. Not a little kid. This was 1994. I was 18.
You were an older guy. You were like a.
So there's this famous gym in Vegas called Johnny Tacos, TOCCO, and obviously Vegas has a ton of fights there. So a lot of people, when they came into town to fight, they would go to Johnny Tacos. So the Foreman fight, I think it was November 5th, 1994. A couple of weeks before that, my friend Eric, who was a boxer, says, look, man, I could get you in at Johnny Tacos to watch, whoever's down there train. So I'm like, really? You got pulled? Yeah, because he was friends with Mike the Bounty Hunter, just a bunch of guys. So we go down there. We're waiting for fucking 2-3 hours for them to get there. Michael Moore comes in. I'll never forget. He had the fucking army fatigues on with the matching hat, sunglasses, dark sunglasses, and he just looked pissed. And everybody was fucking trailing behind them like a fucking line of 20 people. I'm like, great, man. Look, bro, because he basically walked past us. So I'm like, great. This is going to be great. Sure enough, Teddy Atlas, close fucking workout. Get the fuck out of here. And he threw us out.
Oh, shit. Oh,
and
Big Lou.
Then I met him like 10 years later.
Interesting. Big Lou, how are you, sir?
Having look at Jeff over there grinning while he's waiting for Joe to say the punchline.
That's funny, that story. I like that story.
Listen, how about
he wasn't a little kid though. He was a young man back then.
Don't you think this? Look at how Lou is right now. We could barely see him. Isn't that better for all the people watching at home?
Yes.
That you can't make out his face? Listen, Lou, Tom, he's the Don. He's all things podcasting. He says you have a face for radio.
That's right.
I don't know what that means.
Oh, I got to give Lou credit. He's able to navigate amongst all these shows. Like I actually think, and I'm going to give you a little conspiracy. I think there's more than one Big Lou. I'll tell you why. I was watching 4 different shows in one night, and he was on 3 of them at the same time.
Damn.
Oh, yeah.
That ain't right.
Listen, that's going to be Big Lou. That's going to plague you for the rest of your YouTube life. In 20 fucking years, he's going to be saying that same shit about you. What?
Get Rob Entertainment. Can you get him one?
I mean, I do jump on shows, but I don't stay on them like that long. You know what I mean? Depends.
I got it.
Bob Entertainment.
You know what I did last night? I want to apologize to the people in the crowd. Or, I made a statement about the situation with Chris. And I basically said, you got to pick a side, right? I don't know if you guys heard it or whatever. But then I thought about it and I was like, you know what? Because we have mutual friends. That's the thing. It's not just like, we don't know each other. I mean, at one point I was close with them. So to put the pressure on these people, because now Big Lou's going in his chat, going in my chat, it just, he feels uncomfortable, I would think, because I would feel uncomfortable. But,
yeah.
Well, I let
it be known though when I go on the lives. I let it be known that you and Vinny are my friends, and I can call you guys whenever. And ain't nobody told me shit. And if they did tell me shit, I'd tell them get fucked. Because I'm not. Like I said yesterday, I feel like I'm in the middle. I don't like hearing all that shit, shit talking. I don't like it. You know what I mean? I don't like it because it bothers me because, like I said, you guys are my friends.
The end of the day, he's still my brother. We're just not seeing eye to eye or whatever. So
yeah.
Now this is one of those things where someone, is going to have to, if it's ever going to be reconciled, which I'm not sure of, someone would have to make the first step. You know what I mean? And sometimes that's the most difficult thing to do.
Well, I want to ask Lou. I'm going to cut you off, Joe. Finish, and then I got a question for Lou. Oh, you done, Joe? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. I was just saying, the fact that the content creators and everything, are not getting along, it does put people in an awkward position, but it hurts the whole movement. Because if we had a fucking coalition, I mean, we could all help each other, you know what I mean? And it could be like, because we're all in the same gang, basically. We're in this fucking genre or whatever,
Remember
it's
that
us
song?
against
We're all
the world.
in the same gang.
So,
Remember that song?
Lou and Joe, the problem is, and this is, again, the very good point that you make, there isn't anyone that can truly just be cool with everybody. Everybody's got to you had to pick sides. And some people don't like when you, and look, I've known Sicilian a long time. I have no issue with him. I have no issue with Lee at this point. I have no issue with Tom, Joe. Like, I don't have an issue with nobody. I can be cool and go on people's shows and just talk about mob shit. I don't need to go on, and just because I go on their show means that I'm against you. I'm not against him or anybody.
Because that's ultimately what drew me into this was the mob content. So that's what I want to hear. Or even talking sports or talking American culture as far as shoes and cartoons and TV shows and all that. That's cool too. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Wrestling, but that's what drew me here. I don't want to. I got enough drama in my life. You know what I mean? With family, work, and I'm cool, man. I don't want to hear all
like
that.
What they do in the NBA now. You know what I mean? Like all the fucking top players, they go to one team or whatever. They have these fucking relationships or whatever, stacking the deck. I mean, could you imagine if we had a bunch of these content creators, working with us? Because it's like I said, it's us against the other YouTubers. You know what I mean? And obviously, right now, we're not as big as we should. But I don't think the fighting is just going to get. It's just not productive for anything. You know what I mean? It's just.
One second.
It's really sad more than anything, but.
I got a question for Big Lou, and this is just an observation, right? So there isn't unity in the space. It is what it is. And I've been saying this since day one, right? When you fractionate first of all, the genre is not big enough, right? So if you keep fractioning the audience, you're going to be stuck at whatever you're going to be stuck at for a while. You're not going to grow. And that's the name of the game, not just because you're looking to make money, but you want to grow your audience and new experiences, people. My challenge is there's a lot of shows out there now that are dedicated. The whole show is bashing other people, right? Yeah. So let me ask you, as a viewer, and this is an indictment on any individual. I want to hear, well, you're talking about Tom or this or that, but let me ask you though, you're a casual viewer of this. You're going on every show, mess with you. Like, when are you at a point where you're like, hey guys, enough is enough. Hey man, you're my guy, but like, can we get back to the mob stuff? Are you like kind of like where are you at with all this? I want to hear your opinion.
I've already went on there. I've already been on a few shows and saying it. I've already said it on the shows that I wish you would get back to what this is supposed to be called. It's called Mob Tube. So let's talk about mob, not this guy's a pussy and that guy's this. I don't like that shit. I don't like it because to each is, like I said, I can like somebody. It doesn't mean I have to agree with everything they do. And that's that goes a variety of people. You know what I mean? That's not pinpointing just at any one person. It's a lot of shit talking and going on, and I just don't like it. You know what I mean? I've always been against that. Always been against motherfuckers that do that shit. Talk shit. I call cell warrior, but nowadays it's called the screen warrior, device warrior, whatever, keyboard warrior. You know what I'm saying? Where you're talking shit behind your phone or your fucking iPad or whatever the fuck you're using, and you're just talking shit. And when you start using the word bitch and all that, punk and all that, I can't stand it. I can't stand it because if a man knows he calls another man bitch, either that dude's going to he's supposed to fight you at the very least, right? Yeah. That's just words you don't throw around. Just like this rat word has been thrown around so crazily like the word saying hello. You know what I mean?
It loses its true meaning.
Because I talked to Jimmy Calandra. Oh, I'm a rat now, and my Mexican homies out there in California. Man, miss me with that shit, motherfucker.
But that's one thing I don't like about the content creators, okay? And I might offend some of them, but, you know, you can't say that you don't like this turncoat, this cooperator, but I like this one. You know, you can't claim to hate these turncoats, but I'll make an exception with this guy. It's either you're in or you're out. You know what I mean? You're against them or you're not.
JC, I did a live on my birthday. It was yesterday. God, I'm 46 in one day. Did a live yesterday during the day. JC was great to be on. I think JC kind of unpacked it pretty well. If you could repeat kind of like where you land on informants, and you know, like you kind of, I like how you put it. You know, there's a traditional way, and then there's another way. And I know Lou has his opinion, but JC, can you repeat what you said on yesterday's show?
Yeah, thanks for having me on again and having me on yesterday too. It's pretty simple. All of these guys, Calandra, Gene Borello, who's one of my friends, John A-Light, who I'm cordial with. I'm cordial with Calandra too, obviously. We're friends on Instagram. All of them are snitches. They're all informants, period. Now, some are worse than others. Some are better than others. I've never ratted, but I'm also on YouTube, and I'm talking about old OC stuff, old mob stuff. And remember, under the old school rules, you're not supposed to talk in front of the media either. So technically, I am also an informant in that sense. I live by the same rules that everybody else does. I'm not immune from them, and I'm not above or below them. And same thing with everybody else. Calandra is an informant. He's a rat.
Who's a rat?
Everybody else that's on YouTube that's been in court as well. Again, some are worse than others, and we have to keep a real definition. And one of the biggest problems with the mob back in the day, and you see with other groups now, is everybody has their own definition of what a rat is or what a rule violation is. And if everybody can make up the rules as they go to suit themselves, then you don't have any rules, which means you don't even really have an organization.
Lou, what do you think?
So wait a minute. So you're saying that because we come on here and we talk about stuff from 30 years ago that's been written, I don't know how many times over, we're an informant?
I'm not saying if I simply came on here and repeated what was in the newspaper and said, hey, in 1992, in April, John Gotti was convicted of, no, that's just reporting news. No, talking about your own crimes, especially mob related, and talking about things that may tie other people. I've been very careful, but you know, when I'm talking about stuff back in the day, I might be alluding to things. In fact, I have alluded to crimes where I have been caught, where other guys did get away. Now, am I saying their names? No, but I'm saying what happened. And if I don't watch it, a really smart cop or really smart Fed could be watching these shows and say, aha, I know the incident he's referring to. I think I know who this other guy might be. Now, obviously, years ago, most drug crimes, GTAs, and theft stuff, they could care less. But if there was violence involved, it will come back, and it will come back on all of us. So, you know, the fact is, you know, if you're talking about past crimes, it is what it is.
So you're from California too, so you know about what we got over this way, right? As far as the OC crews over here, right? Organized organizations. So
yeah, absolutely.
I never go into anything, inner workings or any of that with what I got, what's around here in my area, right? So you're not too far from my area.
I'm not debating you from what I understand.
No, I'm not saying you are. I'm not saying you are.
Well, no, you kept your mouth shut about all this stuff from what I understand. I've never heard of you snitching, so, you know.
Yeah, I'm piggybacking off what you're saying. That's what I'm not debating you. I'm piggybacking off what you're saying. You know, I had some people say, because I talked to Calandra, that I'm a rat, this and that. So I've been on.
I disagree with that. You're not a rat because I'm not a rat because I talked to Gene Borello. Now, some people will say there's hardliners, obviously, Big Lou, who will say we're both bad people for even saying hi to any of these guys. You know how it is. There's certain hardliners, old school traditionalists. That's how they are.
Yeah, I got you. I'm just saying that people use that word too loosely, right? And if that was the case with me, then I would be blabbing off everything. Now I got a buddy that interviewed you a while back, Flacco, right? Remember Flacco interviewed you a while back? Okay, so I know him personally, right? Okay, so he's no longer in good standings, right? But everybody has their own little stories on why they did what they did. Now, like you said, the hardliners.
Right.
When it comes down to the hardliners, it doesn't matter what your story is. You're not supposed to do what you did. You took an oath, right? But sometimes it's just real grimy, bro. Some of the situations. Sometimes, it is what it is. And, regardless, whatever the situation is, you're still not supposed to. You're not supposed to sing, right? So, it's just, it just depends who you're talking to. But this word, and then come to find out some of these people that are throwing that word around, they're from like England and shit. They're not even from here and deal with the stuff that we deal with. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, I agree with you there. And you know what? For the people out there who have never walked in our shoes, it's one thing to judge us for being criminals or ex-criminals, but don't be trying to act like, well, if I had been in your position, I would have done this. You don't know what you would have done and feel lucky that your lives weren't so crazy that you did what we all did. Big Lou and his guys included, Joey back there in New York. All of our stories are very similar. They have similar details and similar reasons why we get where we get. And it's almost always all bad stuff. So if you're a regular Joe out there, just Joe Schmo on the street,
thank you.
Feel lucky that you don't have to put yourself in these positions, but don't be trying to come on and act like you have moral superiority over us. Judge us, the way a civilian should judge a criminal for sure. But don't be put yourself as though you are a higher level crook kind of thing. I don't go for that.
Well, let me ask this, because when JC was on yesterday, we had somebody on, and listen, I'm as civilian as the day is long. I claim nothing other. So in order for me to have a show, I either got to have you guys on for commentary or guys that are in real life, like Luisi or John Panisi or Francis, who I had in 17 or whoever, right? So that's what I have to do, right? Now, I try to take the podcasting neutral view where if I have somebody on, like I had A-Light on, if somebody wants to say, hey, you know what, I disagree with him, I'll have somebody to back it up, right? What I don't like is people will get on me, you're platforming rats, but that same people don't look at who else I have on and give them the same footing and be like, all right, you may have, you know what I'm saying, Lou?
I think part of that has got to do is because A-Light likes to control. This is what I think. Please. Obviously I don't know because you guys talk and you guys deal with each other, but it seems like he wants to stay away from certain questions and he wants to run the show the way things get answered. And if you don't like what maybe you're saying to him, he gets upset. Like he throws.
But who else? Whoever.
He shows up with an agenda. He shows.
Whoever in his history of media pressed him like I did the one show, and then Lou, you watch a lot of shows.
That's why he got pissed. That's why he was mad.
And I'm talking for 6 weeks, right? But you see my show. I'm not an I got you guy. I hate that whole traditional like, who did you kill? Like, to me, that's not like I interviewed probably 20 people in life. I'm not going to ask who they killed. I don't find that interesting. I find why they did what they did. What was their journey like? How did they get into it? What did they learn from it? And I literally unpack what they do, right? So for me, my selfish interest is to learn from them to give good, to give good content, right? So my thing is with him is if I had him on the second time and I was stern and I was fair, if I sandbag him again, you're known. Now you're not going to get him on. I'm not going to get other guests on. Maybe Jimmy Clandra may say, hey, you know what? I want to get an interview from Tom because I think he can unpack my story in a respectful way. But now he's like, oh, well, Tom was a scumbag to him. Or if I'm trying to get Sammy on, I'm trying to get Francis back. There's a bigger picture here. You know what I'm saying? And like, I feel like a lot of people, frankly, have an agenda, and that's okay. But fucking be clean about it. Hey, you know what? I fucking hate this guy. Here is why. It affects me what I think about you, Tom.
Yeah, exactly. There's not enough intellectual honesty in the whole space. It's the old, my rat is better than your rat. You know, my rat's reasons for ratting are better than your rat's reasons for ratting. But then if the rat you're friends with disrespects you, all of a sudden he's a terrible guy. It's the same thing they do with sexuality. They'll say that a dude that's friends of theirs is a stud and blah, 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 gets all kinds of women. You know, suddenly if they don't like him, oh, I think he's a closeted gay. And they'll throw those innuendos at them and other things. And it's really an easy playbook to see, the public relations attack playbook that mobster A puts on mobster B when they don't like each other, and vice versa. And as it fluctuates, and then they're cool again, and then they do it to the next guy, you know, and it's a pattern that everybody can see. And if I was advising guys like A-Light and others, which I would never work for, but if I was advising A-Light in particular, I would tell him to tone that stuff down and to recognize that people are looking at they're looking at everything he says and does, not just the words, but also the consistency or lack thereof with them. And he should probably fix a few of his stories and be a lot less extemporaneous with his speaking, because he loves to just start spouting stories out of nowhere. And that's when he starts making up stuff, in my opinion, when I see it the most from him. I'm strictly media critic.
Let me address something.
You know.
This Anthony Chiavetta. I don't know. He says, am I in the streets? No, I'm not in the streets. No more. I'm not. I work and I, pay taxes. I take care of my kids and my grandbaby. Right. So I don't know I'm not really understanding that question. If it's a statement or if it's a, you know what I mean? I don't know. But
yeah,
Nelson, I was looking at
so many
I'm looking at Nelson. I'm looking at the other phone, the other message. I'm looking at the chats, Nelson, and the other phone. I'm not asleep. I'm looking down at
you know
phone.
what? Disregard these clowns. I had a guy that was on with Joey and Vinny yesterday say that I was a troll or something. Big whoop. Someone emailed me, hey, the guy's talking about you. And I went and checked it out, and I'm like, dude, this guy forget about it. And Lou, look, you don't have to explain yourself to these people, especially random chat people. Forget about it. You're the fact that you're working and you're not hustling out here in Cali no more. I have a business that I run. Joey works. Pretty much most of us at least work or do something like a small business. Obviously, there's one or two guys that beg for money. Well, I won't say their names, but the rest of us, we do something that's honorable. So forget these trolls. Who cares? Who cares about these idiots in the chat? Good job, Big Lou, for how you live your life.
Yeah, well, Nelson 51. He's not he's a real respectable guy. He was just joking around. I was just telling him that I was looking at the phone. But the other guy, I don't. Yeah, Nelson. Yeah, he's my people too. You're right. JC, right?
Lou. What's that?
Yeah, you're right. Because I was on Stack Show earlier with Jimmy, and he told me the same thing. Some things I read and it bothers me, and I have to address it. But I hope to one day soon here get to the point where it doesn't bother me. You know what I'm saying? Because I know who I am, and if you know me, then you know who I am.
His friend Code of the Streets. Salute to that guy, Code of the Streets. A few days back, he held his ground and he showed his loyalty with this other podcaster I won't mention. And I was like, wow. I had an argument with him on Lee Cole's show like 4 months ago. It was real brief and it wasn't that bad, and he's all right. But mad respect to Code of the Streets. Real is real. The dude is loyal.
Yeah,
he sticks by his friends, and that there's something to be said about that. Whether I like him personally or hang out with or whatever, real recognizes real.
Yeah, he seems.
Well, yeah, I saw him. I saw him. I saw him on a clip. Sorry, I gotta send a text. I saw him on a clip where he was on a show, and there was somebody that came on, and the guy was like kind of clowning him a little bit. And I'm gonna tee this up to Jeff, actually, Jeff Nadu. I think a lot of this comes down to lack of media experience. I'm not knocking anybody, but like for one, I remember you were on somebody's show once, and like Lee jumped on, and like you weren't prepared for it. Like I was on a show recently, and like somebody else came on that I wasn't comfortable sharing a screen with. Like, you don't do that in media. Like, you just don't. It's disrespectful. If I have a caller on, or I call it a caller, but a caller come on and they're getting on Jeff inappropriately, like, you're supposed to knock them off right away. Like, I think a lot of it comes down to lack of media experience and frankly, lack of professionalism. Jeff, what do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't sandbag people. I think that's something. I think you said that pretty well. Look, people have asked me, would you ever interview John Aled or any of these people? No, because I don't think I would be able to control the conversations with most of these people. I do agree with what Lou said in that aspect, whoever said that. Plus, I got to be honest, and I've said this.
Wait. If you had the opportunity to interview John Aled, you wouldn't?
No.
Why not?
Because I don't. I'll tell you why. So the only two that I would interview are Gravano and Franzese. And the reason for that is I don't believe any of these people on MobTube outside of those two were consequential at all to the mob. I think you can tell the history of the mob and you could leave their stories out and it's completely fine. Those guys, to me, aren't worth talking about. I don't, all due respect, I
what
don't
about Bobby Luisi? Bobby Luisi?
What about Bobby Luisi?
I think he'd have an interesting story just from a Philly perspective. And I think he did have something. I guess for me, though, I'm just talking for myself. I don't have relationships with any of these people. Yeah. I don't know them. I don't communicate with them. I'm not friends with any of these people. Yeah. I don't have any ill will towards them. I wish them the best. I don't agree with their behavior and decisions. I just personally don't talk to them. Now, that being said, my show's about history. I don't know if there's a ton of stories I can tell about John Aled or Gene or any of those. Like, I just don't think it'd be that interesting. That's all. And as far as Sammy and Michael, I guess I could also say, like, what do I have to really ask them? I pretty much seem like I know or feel like I know a lot about them already. So,
well, I interviewed Franzese back at 17, and obviously it was early on because he was a Christian speaker for a while. Then he kind of went back to the mob stuff. So he was starting to get back to the mob stuff when I interviewed him. And a lot of it was like gas tax. My interview with him now, and I'm working to get him back on, is going to be categorically different. I'm looking to get Sammy on. I don't want to ask Sammy about stuff that he already talked about. Believe it or not, I'm interested in like when he grew up. So I go down rabbit holes. I think we all do, right? And I feel like a lot of guys that become informants, a lot of them weren't legacy Cosa Nostra. If you really think about it, I know, Sammy was in a Cosa Nostra family. Respectfully, John Panisi wasn't, Cosa Nostra lineage. Bobby, I think his father was a wise guy, but wasn't a made guy. Like, if you look at a lot of the guys that were informants, I don't believe a lot of them were from legacy made members, grandfather. I mean, Frank Pasqua is an example of against that, but he was also kind of a crappy dude. But you get what I'm saying? So, like, I get fascinated about guys that weren't in the life, that got in the life, and then, like, how was it different for them? Sammy said, growing up, they're bad guys, but there are bad guys, right? So when I grew up, like, in the 80s and 90s, that's how it still was. I think I caught the last inkling of the mob. And I want to hear, number two, is they had the world by the balls. Not even just the city, but the world by the balls, the Mafia in New York, right? And they fucked it up. I would like to see Sammy's perspective on what exactly happened. Let's not be like, let's get past the bullshit. Gotti was running around in suits and blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's part of it. But what systemically was wrong? There's 8,000 bad decisions, right, that brought it down. But what was that, like, first decision that things started to change? Should they have killed Castellano? Like, these are the things that I want to know from Sammy or Michael or, somebody that I would talk to. So I do want to interview Michael again. I want to interview Sammy. I'm working on some things. Stay tuned. And I think they're going to happen. But I want to talk to them differently than I do maybe Aled or somebody else. I'll agree with you on that,
Plus, Michael Franzese, he's made a lot of business moves since then too. Correct. I mean? He's got involved with a lot of stuff and more books and different business ventures and stuff like that.
That bullshit pizza fucking company. What's it called?
Exactly, Joe. Exactly. There's good and there's bad with Franzese. He was arrested, back in 2010 for fraud, which is way past the Jesus phase. we can all use the Lord for good or thy bad. We know this. And I think that Mr. Franzese may have done it once or twice in a negative way. But as a whole, I think he's a gentleman. And I do agree with Jeff to a large extent, actually, that him and Sammy, because of their positions in Cosa Nostra and the time period, are two of the most consequential guys that are still alive. And that whole era, they're dying off, you know. And
so let me ask you, if Sammy
into the 90s and beyond.
And this is open to the forum. Whoever wants to answer. If Sammy was just a Brooklyn Italian American guy, little kind of semi-connected, got into construction, would he still be successful? Or if you take away the knee breakers and the threats, he was a nobody? Because I heard both. I heard he was.
I've said before. Listen, all these guys on YouTube, right? A-Light, you know, not Sammy per se, because Sammy do his own things before Gotti. But look, no one knew who the fuck John A-Light was if he wasn't connected to the Gottis in some way, right? They just, some of these, look at Larry Mazza, another one. He was connected with Greg Scarpa, right? Everybody knows Greg Scarpa. But I think without Gotti, I mean, you know, Gravano, I've always said, I don't think would have been as elevated.
I have a question when you're done.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the show that you did yesterday, Tom.
Yeah.
Who was the guy that came on later?
He's a new. I'm pretty good with like who comments, who the viewers are, emails. It was PJM something, and he's a newer viewer. Even when I asked him, because I asked people, were you a new theory guy, Button Man? Like, where did you catch the channel? And he really didn't answer. He seemed like a newer guy. He seemed to lean very pro Gotti, and was like, you know, hey, A-Light's the devil. You know, but Calandra's okay. And I was saying, I respect your opinion. The challenge I had, he wasn't respecting mine.
I didn't hear it because I got off. But what was
he was
between Sammy and Jimmy?
Lou, were you watching by chance? I know it was probably early for you. Yesterday's live.
No, I missed it.
No worries. Well, JC, you were on. What was your take? Because I know you got into it with them.
With who?
The PGM guy, the guy that was really pro.
Oh, you know what? The guy unfortunately did the same thing we were just talking about. The old "my rat's better than your rat" thing, and the old "my rat's not actually a rat because I've redefined what rat means, and I just changed the definition until my guy doesn't fit that definition no more." And you know, Calandra's a nice guy, and he's a lot. He's a lot less flamboyant than John A-Light for sure. But at the same time, there's no denying he put Spiro behind bars. And, you know, he's not as bad as, let's say, A-Light in many ways. But the guy was saying, you know, the guy initially made sense because he sounded like he was going in the direction of this is the definition of snitch, rat, whatever you want to call it, and we'll keep it there. And then we'll just accept who they are at that point. But that's not what he did. He ended up saying that, you know, the guys I'm cool with or you're cool with, Tom, they're not the same, you know, whatever. And I understand the dude had a bias, but the guy would not admit that he had a bias. And that brings up a whole nother issue, ego. There's a lot of it here.
But how did he answer the question? He says, you know, because I'm sure people asked him, or were thinking about asking him. How did he justify it?
He felt, and I want to hear what you guys say. I disagree with this. I would love Jimmy's opinion, actually, but, you know, it looked like he had a personal experience, and he felt that, you know, 19, 20, 21, maybe 22 years old, you're still a kid, and he felt like, talk about like woke terms, he felt like, which is true in some ways, that these guys were being groomed. You know, they get them early and you groom them to the life of organized crime. And
right, exactly, Tom. And the point being is he would say, you know, Calandra was being groomed. And then I'm like, well, hold on. A-Light was also being groomed. I was being groomed at a young age. I'm sure Big Lou, when he first got involved with the homies, was at a younger age. Nearly all of us have been groomed at a young age. The dude tried to act like Calandra's the only one. And then he also misrepresented the facts on his informant move. Keep in mind, Calandra, by his own admission, did not snitch the first time he was in the system. He did his time. However, that murder that had happened, which I don't blame Jimmy for that. Somebody else was pulling the trigger. I've been in situations where dudes could have pulled the trigger and I could have been blamed. So I do not point that at Jimmy, but he didn't just come forward all of a sudden right after that with his heart saying, I got a rat now. He waited until another case future, and that dude completely ignored that. Again, ignoring facts when it comes to the guys you like, or overlooking facts and standards. And that's what the dude continually did.
Hey, Tom.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if I could just say one thing. Anthony Chiavetta is a piece of shit, and I'm going to tell you who he is. I have a real fucking problem with this guy. I don't bring shit up a lot.
Okay.
This guy is a guy called Mob Tours Philly. He lies constantly about me and other people. He said he kicked me out of Villa de Roma and beat me up in the street on 9th Street. That is a total fucking lie. It never happened. This guy runs around on YouTube, driving around and talking shit. He's a scumbag. A complete scumbag.
Well, you are a guest. You want me to put him in timeout or block him?
He's got a fake name. See,
you want me to put him? I mean, you're a guest on the show, Anthony.
You don't
I'm
have
not
to block anybody. I'm just telling people who this guy is. He's a loser.
Okay.
He's a lying scumbag.
Okay.
Yeah, but if he's not saying anything negative, but if he does, then he's gone, basically. So, like every other fucking.
Well, he says Mob Tours Philly tells the truth, so maybe he's talking about himself.
That's his channel. He's hiding behind a fake name. His name is John Fosco. That's his real name.
At least he's Italian. That's good, I think.
And I say his name because he says his own name on his channel. He has his own name on his channel. He's on a fake name on here.
Yeah.
Well, that's another little beef. I don't know if this is a real account. I like this guy's show. I don't know if this guy wants to jump in. I listen again. Can I make a statement? Because I'm tired of it. He could have did 100 shows about whoever. The 5 shows I saw, I liked. If you want to come on, I like your vibe. I like the guy's vibe.
He's definitely not wrong with that.
Yeah. What do you say? Construction movement in the 80s fueled by Gotti Gravano. Monkey would have been a successful globalization. Was meant to Gambino, Cherry Hill carried the family. Yeah. Yeah. Which was a good point. But that's the thing.
What do you think would have happened if the Sicilian faction, Sicilian wing of the family, the Borgata, the Gambinos, if they didn't take over as far as administration and all that? What do you think? What do you think ultimately would happen?
There's two parts, and I would actually ask Sammy about this. I believe I read it in his testimony, and I think he might have talked about his podcast when he was on the stand, if I recall correctly. Lisa is here; she's a good historian. That they said when you guys took over, who were you worried about? So there were some pockets, Bilotti, and some guys that might want some retribution, but they were really scared about the Cherry Hill Gambinos. They had the power, they had the money, they were backed by Italy, and it could have been a done deal. So I guess I believe, and I have no reason, he has no reason to lie about it, is Gotti sent Gravano to talk to them, and they're like, no, we're good. We just want to make our money. And remember, these guys are big earners, got to make sure they're happy. So that's why the Sicilian faction didn't take over. With the Sicilian faction that runs stuff now, man, they run it tight. A lot of those guys are from a small town in Sicily called Torretta. It's a very tight town. There's a lot of Sicilians in Brooklyn and Queens. I still think there's cells from the Sicilian side still here that are affiliated with the LCM, but that are made over there. I think the heroin pipelines are still flowing again, and I think they're making a fuck ton of money. I also predict the FBI comes down on them in the next 18 months because, they can't do it for that long. You guys know this. You need a big Gambino bust every 5 years. We're due for one in a year and a half.
Is that before they were a little afraid of them? Was that before John Gambino became a capo or after?
Gambino, I believe, was a capo when when Gotti was the boss, but John Gambino was John Gambino. And Lisa, I think, is in the chat. Actually, hold on. Gotti supposedly showed up at John Gambino's cafe in Brooklyn and later all the capos showed up and went to meet with John one by one. Don't know if that's true. I was told, and I think Lisa could back this up, that Toto Riina actually came from Sicily to meet with John Gambino in Florida. Like guys from Sicily would meet with him. Now, when there was a beef, what was it? The Inzarellos. There was a beef with the Inzarellos here. Like, so the Inzarellos had escaped Sicily and come over here. Totorina wanted to wipe out the Inzarellos on U.S. soil, like all of them, and he would have. And the U.S. guys are like, it's bad for business. Giuliani have a heart attack. The fucking feds will come after us. The Italy government will go after us. It's not good. Supposedly, John Gambino went to Totorina in Corleone, sat down with him one-on-one, and brokered a deal to save the Inzarellos on the side. So this guy had fucking weight to do that. You know?
Then they went back and took over again over there, right?
Well, the belief is after Provenzano went away that the Iscarpati, the guys who came here, they went back. The Inzarellos crewed up, and that's believed to be the pipeline. The old Spatola Gambino Inzarello pipeline is supposedly reestablished. And Tommy Gambino, which I don't think is Rosario's son, it's a fat one, got pinched in that latest pinch in 19. So I think they're cooking, to be honest.
Tommy Gambino, the son of Carlo, he's still alive, all right? He's just an old man.
No. There's people think there's two. There's like three Tommy Gambinos. There's Rosario's son, who I think is in his 50s and 60s. There is Tommy Gambino, who's in his 80s. That's Carlo's son. And there's another Tommaso Gambino, which is son of, I think, of another Gambino, a Giovanni Gambino, not even John Gambino. But my point being is there's a lot of them still, and they crewed back up, and they're pretty powerful.
And they answered my question right there. I was wondering who made John Gambino a capo. Was it Castellano?
According to Lisa, and Lisa's like a John Gambino expert. We'll probably do a show just on him with Lisa. She's like the Bobby Manna and like John Gambino expert. She said Gotti did.
Right. Yeah, I just seen that. I was gonna ask that question. That's what I'm saying. Maybe they were afraid, of their power, and then he bumped them to capo to make them happy. Make them maybe make them happy where they weren't a threat. Maybe.
Yeah. So I was right. There's three. Giuseppe has
a
Tom. Rosario had a Tom, and then obviously Carlo had a Tom.
Don Carlo's son Joseph. He wasn't made. I don't believe. Right.
I don't think he was
Tommy
made.
Right?
Did you guys or Lisa? I don't think Joe Gambino was made.
I think it was just Tommy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know they got sued for a lot. They had to give up a lot of money later on. They had to give up a lot of
but that was like peanuts. Like literally, Thomas Gambino at one point was like $100 million. They have like a hospital wing named after them. That's usually like
right.
Kick. They're not missing meals. He's got to be in his 90s now.
Yeah, I think he's like in his 90s. I think that he's probably in Florida, most likely.
All three of them had a son named Tommy. Interesting. Well, Joe Gambino is still kicking. Joe Gambino is in Staten Island. He got out. He's a little older. He's quiet. I think they made their money. There was a belief that all three guys on legitimate businesses were making $200 million a year alone back then.
Don Carlo's son Joseph.
No. The three Gambino brothers, the Cherio Gambinos. They had
they were asking in the chat. We were talking about Joe Gambino, the brother, or Don Carlo's son, Joe. I'm talking about Don Carlo's son.
You were talking about I'm sorry. Yeah. Yes, Joe Gambino, Carlo's son, and Lisa would probably know this, or maybe Nicasio might. I don't think he was made. I'm like actually pretty certain.
I don't think so. I don't think so either. But they resemble each other, don't they? John Gambino, he looks like them. I know they're cousins, but they're like what, second, third cousins or something?
Yeah, and
they resemble each other.
Also, I believe he had a son named Carlo. Carlo Gambino had a son named Carlo that I think had nothing to do with the mob.
Really? I'm not sure about Joe Gambino, Carlo's son. She's not sure.
Yeah.
Lisa's mob Firestone chat, mob fireside chat.
Yeah, that's Lisa.
He's a nice. Okay. I thought that was the kid. We had him on the show, Tom. What's his name? No, that's Black Handprint. That I'm getting him confused.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does good work. He does well researched stuff too, man. I like his stuff.
I'm looking to have him on soon.
I like his stuff, and there's a couple other ones. I can't think of the name right now.
I'm looking to have him on soon, and I don't know if you saw. I did a review of his book, and his book is excellent.
Yeah, I want to get that book. I got my Giovanni book the other day. I finally got it.
It came in.
Yeah. I finally got
Lou, you might want to wait. He's rewriting it. Black Hammer.
Is he?
He's putting a new edition out.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, but he told me. Go ahead.
He messaged me back. I asked him when would it be ready, and he messaged me back. He said, like, I think he said one of the first few months of the year.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly. So, yeah, I want to get it when it's ready. So
I wish you could see how many books I had in my fucking house. Forget about it.
I still got the DeArco book I haven't read yet. And my dad just got the other day that book about DiBiase, the guy that's killed Joe Gallo. DiBiase, I can't think of his first name.
Yeah. Wait.
Carlos?
So the Giovanni, my recommendation is, and I know he's coming out with a new book. I would get this one. It's a quick read. It's a good reference. I think the next one is going to be like a big publishing house, bigger book. I think it's going to be almost a different in a way, even though the principles will be corporate. I liked it because it was a quick read. The Giovanni Rocco book, great book. I recommend it. Giovanni's Ring. I may get him on for a live Q&A. I don't know if you guys saw that interview. I fucking love that guy. Even though like he kind of put some people away that we knew, but other than that, I listen, I like the guy. I thought he was a professional, and it was funny reading the book. I'm like, how did this idiot, like the guys that he penetrated and brought down weren't idiots, many of these guys, right? And I'm like, how did this guy even get past these guys? There's no way. These are Elizabeth guys, Jersey guys, mafiosi, some are from like the Cavalcantes, Ribera, like guys that just don't get pinched like that. And when I talked to him, I can see why he penetrated. He had that confidence and that swagger about him. And listen, you know what? He's not a rat. You know, I don't mean to use that word. He's not an informant. He was a cop. He did his job, and he did his job better than the other guy, you know?
That's a cop. Yeah, that's a cop, man. So the Cavalcantes, they weren't in Newark, New Jersey. They were only in Elizabeth.
There's not. That's the thing. There wasn't many in Newark. Newark had the 5 families. The Genovese were very big. The Genovese and Lucchese. Well, the Genovese were big. You had like Richie the Boots crew. They were whales, and then you had in Patterson Gatto crew. The Lucchese's were big to this day. You kind of like a lot like the Achitero. You had Ricciardi, and then you brought current time like the Pernas and the Tessettas. So Lucchese's always bopping around, and then obviously Gambino's Bobby Cabert was Gotti's guy in Jersey. The guy was a fucking Jeff. That's a guy you got. I don't know if you did him already, but Bobby Cabert out of Jersey, you'll go down a rabbit hole on that one. That was Gotti's guy in Jersey.
Hey, Tom, you ever hear of the Paterno crew?
Florida?
No, I know Mob Fireside Chat has done some stuff on the Paterno crew in Newark. They were
that's probably got to be old, like the 40s.
I thought Joe Paterno was in Florida, but I could be wrong.
No, this guy Joseph Paterno, he was in. He may have been in Florida at one point, but they had a Jersey crew, and then maybe
he also was up at Penn State too.
Yeah.
What about what was I gonna ask?
Parasite Slayer, what's up?
I forgot now.
Parasite Slayer is good people.
Let me ask you.
I don't want to give. I don't want to give the book away, but Giovanni was at his daughter's soccer game and ran into the Gambino guy that he knew, and it was like way out of context, and like he covered it up well. But that's a good part of the book.
Alan's in the house too. His fucking house burnt down. Did you hear that?
Yeah, sorry to hear about that. Alan, hope everything's all right with you guys over there.
Yeah, man. That's I was thinking about it, like these fucking tornadoes and all this shit. Imagine
hold on,
house is wiped out.
Nikas, you got to come on. But here's the thing, though, that I don't disagree with you. But then how do you explain the Calabrians, the cousins, and if you will, in Italy, turning into a $50 billion enterprise, while the Gambinos, which are still probably big, are probably stuck at $250 million. So I'd like to hear your thought if you want to jump on. We're not going to be on too much longer, guys. So because I'm gonna have to get back to Daddy Duty, but I would love to hear Nikasi's point of view.
Hey, do you remember that guy? I can't remember his first name, but his last name was Clemente. He was talking on I think it was Inside the Mob, or it was about the Jersey guys, Lucchese's, and he was the guy. He kind of stuttered a little bit. I don't know if any of you guys remember that show with Tommy. What's his name? Ricciardi or Tommy Ricciardi?
Yeah. He was.
Yeah, he was talking in it, and that other guy, his last name was Clemente. I don't remember what his first name was, but
I don't know Clemente. One guy also, Jeff, I would look at Marty Takeda. He was a guy who went away, and then he got an appeal. Lisa knows the whole story, and was supposed to get out, but because of some bullshit prior conviction, I don't know the whole story, and he's now like, I don't know. That might be like a good.
Well, let me ask you, Tom. I wanted to ask you about. So I did a show on Tony Pep, right?
Yeah,
Tony Pep Trinacosta.
yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that in the 90s he got jammed up on. So this check kiter that he was working with in Florida killed the stripper. The guy got jammed up on it. He went to the police and told the FBI that the Gambino family told me to kill her. And next thing we know, Tony Pep gets jammed up in that indictment. Tony Pep basically by the end of the case, there's a paperwork out there of him admitting he was in the mob.
Yeah. So the big, I mean, there were many, but so the first, I think, and Lisa's here, and we got some good historians. I think the bigger allocution prior, like what's got the ball rolling, was Persico, and he did that as a defense, which it made sense, but you're still allocuting. After that, Tony
Son
Pep
did
also,
too, didn't he? His son did it too, I think.
I believe so. Yeah. And one of the, but he also didn't get a big sentence. I don't know. Like, you got to remember, like, allocuting, you guys know, is a big deal, right? So the government, to be jerk offs, will be like, you know what? Let's get this guy to allocute. Let's knock off a few years just to jam him up, because they know it jams you up, like with your guys. So obviously Tony Pep allocated. Which
is that a rap move to you?
If you want to go old school, it breaks the rules. You're also not
ceremony. It is.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this. I didn't think it was a rap move until, and it gets a little tricky, is when Danny Marino did it. And the reason why Danny Marino had to do it, I don't care what anybody says. You can get the tomatoes at me. Partially Mikey Scars, but also John Jr.'s 302s jammed him up as well. I know, like, people that know. I don't want to say anything. I have a personal situation where they feel strongly that Gerald Shargle, who was his attorney at the time, pressured him to take the allocution, partially because of Mikey Scars and partially because of 302s. So when Danny Marino did it, in my opinion, even though Tony Pep was before that, then I knew shit was over. So I think that it's like anything else. I don't know if I want to call it a rap move, but it's definitely a huge breach.
Tom, I titled the video "Tony Pep a rat?" ? And I got all the comments. How the fuck is that a rat move? What the fuck?
I don't know.
You had that pizza brigade on your ass for making that video, I bet.
Well, hold on.
Joe Piney Armone. They did that to Joe Piney. He wanted to allocute, and Gotti said no.
Yeah, Vinny, is allocuting a rap move, Vin?
In the old days, it was. I don't know about now.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
What's up,
Vin? That's the equivalent of a plea deal at the state level.
There.
You know, if you plead guilty at the state level to a major crime, it's actually a good thing for everybody else.
Don't even sweat it, Vinny.
The case, so they don't go looking at everybody else. You know, it's sort of what John Sr. did when he took that 72-73 plea deal for manslaughter rather than taking it to trial. Maybe he could have won, but he could also made a lot of noise they didn't want. So I think, technically you're admitting to the existence of their organization. And I say there because I'm never would be a member, never was. But to me, I see it the same as the equivalent of a state plea deal.
You know what? Another funny thing is people come on here and they say, "Oh, this guy took a deal. You're not supposed to take deals." That ain't true. Now, if your boss from that Borgata says no deals, then okay, no deals. But
I asked a guy from the other side that was an old timer, and I was just trying to understand, like, why deals are bad. So if you want to go like old school, closing on
deals are bad because when you plead to it, then if you got crimes or it makes automatically bad. You know what I mean?
No, it goes even deeper than that, because a requirement to having a deal means you have to sit down with governmental authorities in private, meaning your attorney, a prosecutor, your attorney, and some type of law enforcement, and they don't do that. So
that's on the federal level, though.
No, I'm talking to I talked to a guy who was from the other side and got his button on from the other side and
what I'm saying
he's 87 years old. He's 87 years old now. And I asked him, I said, hey, why is rolling, why was Gotti against it? And he didn't even know and like Gotti that much. He really it was a different lane for him. But he just said the Sicilian calls in Austria goes, any conversation with any law enforcement behind closed doors or really at all.
Yeah, but you know what though, Tom? They said those guys were so hardcore that back in the 50s, back when fingerprinting was just really getting to be mass, as well as taking photographs, they would make the cops fight them to get to even put their hands in ink. So look, anytime I guess theoretically, if you let the cops fingerprint you without a fight in today's world, you're breaking that old code. That's a code that nobody could live by today. And it's not snitching to put yourself into harm's way. As long as your plea deal doesn't involve information about others, implicating them directly or indirectly, then I don't see the problem.
That's the thing. If eight guys get indicted and 6 of them want to go to trial, but 2 are pleading guilty. Well, how do you think those guys pleading guilty affects the case going to trial?
That's like they're admitting. I give the old school argument. You give the new school argument, which is also true.
But what Joe's saying is true because that's when you got to make a deal. Everybody's got to go to the box. That's just it. You got to take it to trial all the way.
Either that or you postpone your plea deal until after their trial.
Yeah, but they know the fucking government knows what they're doing. They make it difficult.
I hear you, Joe. I hear you. And obviously the government's going to use their insider knowledge and all the media apparatus they got to make sure a jury is aware that some other dude did plead guilty in this whole thing. And they know what that does. Yeah,
Tom, Johnny Kniggs and Gene Gotti, couldn't they have gotten, what was the number they were going to get if they pled guilty?
20 years, maybe even like small.
John Gotti said no.
Yeah, but they could have took 10 or 15 years.
Right. Kniggs said he could have got 7 years and he said no.
Because his brother told him no. But he did 30 plus years. That's crazy.
I get 29 or 30 on 50.
Thanks, but no thanks, but you're not a lawyer, Gotti. Sorry. You're not telling me
if Sammy was in that position, he would have flipped. If Sammy was in Johnny Kniggs' position and Gene Gotti, where he could have took fucking 7 years or 50, he's running the other way. He's going to the government.
You know what the interesting thing about secret society is, I remember when I was such a kid, 17, 18 in Bensonhurst, any 17 or 18-year-old could have walked into the bar and told you who was made and who wasn't.
What's up, gentlemen?
Listen, the big star, the hottest new star on YouTube is here. Georgie D, what up, baby?
Hey, Tom, I wanted to get sandwiched in between Vinny and Joe, man. I was going to be
I know you love that.
Cookie in there, baby.
That's why if I go meet you in Philly, I got to bring a couple
Hollywood
of people.
Squares. What was that show, Hollywood Squares?
Hollywood Squares. I know. Hey, everybody wants my square right now.
Unfortunately, though, right now, Mob Entertainment Group is Paul Lind.
Hey, Tom, put me in the middle, baby. I'm cold. I just got
I don't know. Can you move this around?
This is the problem with the beefing. You know what I mean? The problem with the beefing with everybody is you can't do this.
Here.
Big Lou, how you doing? Hey, you guys high five me, man. Vinny, Big Lou, high five, baby.
How are you, buddy?
Hey, the mob version of the Brady Bunch right here.
I was thinking about this because I was like, you know what? Like, I'm dealing with some personal matters I can't really discuss, but for the most part, by and large, I would love to squash most of these beefs. I would like, and I like, it's funny because I don't like, you guys see, like, anybody watching the show, I don't think I've ever said anything bad about anybody, like, ever on the show. I just don't as a policy. I don't think it's good form to do that. I got a little carried away on Vinny's show yesterday. I don't know about you guys. I'm one of those guys that, like, if you kind of come for me, I don't mind. But if you come for Vinny, I'm gonna I'm fucking dying for it, you know.
Tom, let me just interrupt you for a second. I listen. I think as long as there's money involved,
in the fucking middle.
There's fighting involved. If everyone's getting along, there's no money in that.
Yeah, but
unless you can have Jesus on the screen.
Yeah, but for me,
Brady Bunch right now.
Yeah, but I can explain to me. The funny thing is, I get accused.
The story.
Hold on. I get accused.
We all got to look up.
Wait, exactly. Well, hold on. I get accused of being in this for the money. I will tell you this much: basically, in lieu of what's going on recently, I was probably.
What else would you be in it for? I don't understand that whole thing.
No. But what I'm saying is, I specifically like get accused for like Tom is just all about the money. I'm dealing with some legal things that I have to retain like 2 fucking lawyers for. So I'm going to be underwater for the year. So when people say
can we unpack that?
Not publicly.
No, I meant live on my show so I can get some views.
When the time's right, yes.
I'm joking.
But what I'm saying,
that's a good one, Vinny. That's one of Tom's favorite phrases right there. Hold on, we got to unpack that.
And
that's
keep
right.
it organic. Let's stay in our lanes.
But anyway, let me finish.
Stay in our lane.
Who's this guy?
But let me finish. But let me finish. What I'm trying to get at is, and I don't care what anybody says. I've been doing this a minute. My strategy is a little different than others, right? It's funny. I got it. Like the guy is in the chat who gave a super chat. He's still okay to criticize me. He was getting on me because my views took a little bit of a hit, right? Which is my views took a hit because I had to remove 100 videos of a very popular show and make it go blonde, make it go dark. When you do that, you crash your channel, right? That has an effect on your current views. That's why I'm like working to dig out of that hole, right? But what I'm getting at is I also am not necessarily doing it for views either. I'm trying to build subs to build somewhat of a community, right? What I'm getting at is the people that are getting a money grab out of this, that are getting money out of the beefs, it's fucking short term. It's short term and it's short sighted in my opinion.
What do you consider?
You got to keep the beef turning.
What do you consider short term? How many months? Because it's been 3 months, 4 months.
Then he wants to know. He wants to start a beef.
Well, I'll give you this. I've been.
Vinny's gonna do a market plan based on a beef coming up.
One thing about us getting together, Mob Entertainment Group. Where you from, Cali?
Yeah.
So you could give us the Cali perspective. Lou could give us Cali. Nadu's Philly. We all should be getting along. Georgie D is fucking Idaho, wherever he's from.
Tom, I came in and disrupted your whole show. I'm so sorry.
I want to answer this.
In New York, though. No more than 5 in New York.
Hold on.
Now I haven't laughed all day. I have felt like shit all day. I come on here. I
want to answer this.
This is the way it should be.
Wait, hold on. I want to answer this, and I go on daddy duty for a minute. But what I'm saying is, I've been podcasting now, for going to be at 5 years, right? And I have 3 different shows, right? So for me, I did it as really as a hobby. I did it to save New Theory, which was my magazine. Then it kind of morphed. Then eventually the NBA Buttman, and then now this, right? So I do this as kind of a part-time thing. I like to do it. I have a media company. It kind of helps me decompress, that kind of stuff, right? So for me, I have a different strategy than others, right? But in terms of short-term, I can't see that like me giving money to somebody to hear them talk about me every day for more than 3 months. Then you're just weird, right? So I think the money grab, the Cash App, the lives, the quick thing, I give it like another 3-4 months. And in a year from now, I think these shows are going to be gone because after a while, people are going to get tired of the nonsense and they're going to leave. And then you're not going to get your Cash Apps, and then they're just going to go into the sunset. If they continue down this path, in my opinion.
Hey, Tom, before you leave, I want your corner when you leave.
Oh.
You take up 2 squares, Georgie. There you go. Georgie's doing him.
Hold on. So, Joe, you work with the mods to check the chats, and then George, you're gonna host for a little bit. I gotta give me a minute.
I'm gonna host. This is terrible.
You don't want
George, could I just say one thing? I was laying down, lights out, staring at an imaginary ceiling fan, and I heard Joe. And I just wanted to say this, and then you take over your first show. I agree. Well, then Lou, you can. I, I will tell you this much, Joe. I know the guy a few months, but he said something. He's never spoke more eloquently, and then when he said, "I feel like I almost made people feel that they were taking sides." Earlier, he said that about, well, if you're in this guy's chat, how could you be on my side? You know what? There are no sides. This is entertainment. David Chase doesn't call you screaming at you because you took the Sopranos off and you put on Jersey Boys or something. This is entertainment. Now it goes too far, and when people are getting doxxed, that's disgusting. But this is entertainment. And I don't blame anybody that says, hey, Vinny, you're my guy. And then I see him in one of my so-called enemies chats, because first of all, I don't feel I have enemies. They are enemies to me. I don't look at them as enemies because that means I validate who they are. And if they're going to be so silly to hate me without even having met me, then you know what? That's their problem. But you know something? Believe me, Joe and I, and we've spoken about this. And when he came out with it tonight, I figured, shit, he ran without me on there. He took the credit. We don't think anybody is a sellout because they may be in someone's show who's screaming at us. We know what the deal is. So don't think that we like, oh, shit, Vinny saw me in that show. Now he's going to think I'm on that guy. We're all, you know what? It's entertainment. That's all it is. And
I could have handled it better, the beefs. I could have.
So could I.
I did my part in fucking things up. But not as far as my actions, because Joey's always going to do what Joey wants. So, but the way I handled certain situations that came up, I don't think I did it the right way.
Well, I'll tell you. Someone said, Carlos, I guess he's not talking to you anymore. I see Carlos in a chat. Hey, Vinny, how you doing, buddy? How you feeling? You can't listen to anybody. You can't listen to anybody. You have to listen to how people treat you. But it's very hard when I'm supposed to hate someone who's never done something to me, but yet they have done things to others that I don't agree with.
Yeah, my biggest issue is these people in the fucking chats, okay? I got all the fucking screenshots of all the people that disrespected me
taking notes
in the fucking chat.
I
got all their fucking names, okay? And let me tell you something. I ain't gonna do nothing to them. I'm not acting like a tough guy. I'll just fucking refuse to even look at your fucking name. And if I get pissed off enough, I'll fucking time you out. Because that to me is some two-faced shit right there.
And when I learn to time someone out, I'll do the same thing.
And there's fucking people in this chat that I got proof right here of what they fucking said. That's some bullshit.
When it comes to those clowns, these trolls, etc., remember something. Their battle is to be acknowledged. That's what they're trying to do. At the end of the day, they view it as a victory if they get acknowledged. And so whether you do it sort of up front or not, if you do anything that indicates to them that you saw what they wrote, they feel like they won. So the best thing you can do to be a victor at all times with these clowns is ignore them.
Jason, Tom,
you're right. There's a couple people in the chat right now that I wouldn't mind telling off.
Oh, yeah, same here, bro. There's a few of them that, like the one that Jeff mentioned earlier, that clown was talking smack on me and you, Big Lou. And basically, he's one of those guys who's trying to get attention from anybody he can, obviously. You know,
yeah, Carlos always. I see Carlos all the time.
Just to point out that he's a lame.
It's okay to diss him,
Tom. Georgie
got someone else's chat, but don't come on this chat thinking it's all fucking gravy and it's all love.
Joe,
you know
I want to ask Tom a question. Tom, you don't have to answer this, but it's pretty easy. And I bet you guys are going to say, "Shit, man, Ben, that was a good question." With all the glorifying of the mob, honestly, because I know you're honest, what was a little more thrilling? Interviewing Panisi, who has that lore about him of what we all look at, or Sharpton?
Oh, that's a good question.
I know. That's why I asked it.
Not really.
I'm ready to go tonight.
Well, I mean, a lot of people don't like Al Sharpton, but in terms of, I got more excited interview John Panisi for the first time.
I figured
because although I interviewed a made guy, which was at that time the only one was Francis, that was the only made guy I've ever interviewed. So to interview like a made guy, like I didn't interview Bobby yet. I didn't interview Paul Tanzo yet. I knew of Anthony Arlotta. He was hard to get for my show at the time. So I was probably a little more excited to interview
and
Panisi.
talk about two ends of the spectrum with wise guys, Panisi and Francis, different personalities. Like, my God, right? It's like, you don't even realize.
Well, my Francis article interview, that's why I want to do it again, was audio. I was audio only for like 3.5 years. And it's an audio interview, but I would like to do a video interview with him. And I'm also working on getting Sammy as well. So stay tuned.
Really?
That should be interesting. Yeah, that should be interesting.
Yeah, but you always had your fucking tongue up Panisi's ass anyway from fucking day one. I remember seeing.
Joe,
I knew the answer to that.
One way to put it.
Splitting cheeks.
I knew the answer to that question, Vinny. I would have told you off air.
No, I'll give you.
That escalated quickly.
Once Joe gets over his initial shyness, he's going to be fine. I think.
I'll give you my thought process. So, we got together and we did a 9-part series for New Theory. It's still actually on the channel. It still gets views to this day. And I actually thought of all the interviews, other than 48, 48 was really good on the old show, but I felt the 9-part series was good because it was really raw. Like I would interrupt, I was like very excited. He was like, didn't know anything about media. It was very open. And I actually thought the 9-part series was the best out of all of them. But I actually, maybe you guys could criticize me, but when we got together, I felt he was a star of the show. Not that I was a sidekick, but I was more the host, and he was a star. So if it appeared for me to be deferential, that was because I felt he was a star, and I wanted him to get that attention. I'm not a big attention guy. That's why I have people on. I can never carry a monologue. I just can't. So that was my strategy there,
You do okay, Tom.
That's why you have me, Jason, and Joe on the Horseman, I guess.
Can't
get a word in.
You put the Horseman out to fucking pasture. When was the last time we did a Horseman?
No,
we got sidetracked, but top of next year we'll do it.
We got to revamp
right show. You don't want to get all shiny.
Wait, what's that?
I said that's why you kicked me off on my first show. You didn't want to get all shine.
You were supposed to host. What happened?
I'm an idiot. I hit the wrong button.
Oh,
you know what I was thinking of? Doing something where because I had John as a co-host, maybe like do an audition for a second host, like another partner, and do rotations and have people pick. But I don't know. That might be too corny. I don't know. I just like to interview. I think I ask people questions that people don't think to ask, and I'm a little bit of a stupid like that. They're like, who thinks of that shit, And oh, I do,
Tom, when you took Sharpton, did Sharpton say, listen, you can't ask me about this, this, and this? Or was he pretty forward?
No.
Cool
I
out
like
to
you're stuck on my Sharpton interview.
I am. I'll tell you why.
Why?
Because I'll tell you why. And maybe Jason, all these people could attest to it. I'm calling you people, my friends. Because when people say that you are not a podcaster, go find the podcasters that have had Francis and Sharpton and the kid from Wolf of Wall Street, and then let them tell you, nah, you're not a podcaster. You're a podcaster.
Oh no, I was telling earlier the guy that did the Wondery Network, right?
And I don't like when people say you're mixed in the shit. You're a podcaster.
Well, no. So watch. I'm not just giving the facts. I interviewed this guy, Hernan Lopez. He started Wondery, right? The best podcast network out there. And I kept asking him questions. I'm like, why you started a podcast network? What's your bit? The usual unpacking, right? He just sold it to Amazon for $300 million. You know what I mean? So I want to hear from guys like him. What's that?
What a shakedown.
Yeah, no shit.
Right, like you want to get next to fucking Jeff Portnoy or whatever the fuck his name is.
Yeah, right.
Call him out.
Hey,
Call
Vinny.
him up and tell him you want to take him out on a date. See what he says.
Yeah,
Hey,
right.
Vin.
But,
Yeah.
Vin, sit still. I'm gonna fix things for you.
What are you gonna do?
Nothing. It's a joke.
Oh shit, man! I get it.
Yeah.
Hey, let
Actually-
me ask everybody a question. Did you guys really think John Panisi really talked that slow?
Is he laughing? Tell me, is he laughing, Lou? Is he
I'm
laughing?
laughing. I'm hilarious. I'll
Tom.
take the glasses off to show you.
Tommy, is that the real Rami?
I don't know.
In the chat, might
Yeah.
be.
He's a perfect
Sounds
example
like-
of what happened. So, being that he was with Pizza, he couldn't talk to me, and I couldn't talk to him. But then we talked, and he seems like a good guy. I mean, you know what I mean? So, that's another thing that sucks.
I want to talk about John for a second. I personally felt that. Thank you, tonight.
Kyrie.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm like terrible with that. I felt like he did speak slowly, but I also felt that I'm like hyper, and we counterbalance each other as well. I didn't see any issue with him talking slow. If you thought
that was just something. I don't understand that. He don't talk that slow.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it's just because he goes he says that a lot, and you know what I mean. I guess because
He enunciates
he
a
talks
lot,
slow.
yeah.
I mean, I guess you could say he talks slow, but not that. I mean, it ain't that bad. Like some people are making it sound. You know what I mean?
Well, I will tell you this. The day of the break, this channel lost 250 subs like that. I thought it was gonna be more, to be honest, right? So I was really nervous because it was about the mob stuff, right? But then when I relaunched, like a day later, like I scrambled, I gained like plus another 800 in the next month because there was a lot of people that were willing to watch but didn't want to support like a consistent informant. There's a lot of people that are against that, and I'm noticed. Like, so, like, not that you can't be anything to everybody, but I actually gained subs on the channel when we disbanded. I thought that was interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because there's more people than you know that family members, friends can hold on. You know what I mean?
I'm living in the belly of the beast. That could always be a problem. But I heard Rami, he got on he's on the outs with Pizza. I wonder if that fucking. I feel bad for him if that's the case.
Why? Feel bad? He's on the outs with Pizza?
I think so. I don't know. I heard a little something.
So let's talk about. We'll be wrapping up soon, but I'm pretty good at procuring guests because I'm like, if I want somebody on, I'm tenacious. What are some of the guests you'd like to get on the show? Who are some of the guys that are out there?
Andrew DiDonato.
That'd be interesting. You know,
Uncle Nino.
Yeah,
I'm saving that for my show, Uncle Nino.
Uncle Nino from Jersey Shore.
He lives down the street from me.
Yeah, he's funny, man. He's funny as fuck.
If you talk to him in real life,
yeah,
he's crazy. He's a good guy.
Hey, Tom, you ever heard of Larry Lawton, man? He was a jewel thief. He has his own podcast on.
Yeah, I reached out to him a few times. He didn't get back to me. I could.
He's got 1 million subs. What
About how to
easily 9,000 subs.
Going into jail and what's right, and the story of how you're received in and all that. I actually watched that last night. It's interesting you say that, George. I watched it last night.
And shout out to Big Lou was talking about earlier, man. That Convict's Perspective. Them dudes, I watch them all the time. Rojo. And,
those are my buddies. Those are my boys. I know them personally.
Who is that?
Those are good dudes, man.
Who?
Convict Perspective. Convict's Perspective. They're two.
Okay, because I'm gonna watch it. Convict.
Yeah, JC knows at least one of them.
Yeah, I went on. They had only like 3,000-4,000 subs, and now they're at like 60 or 70,000. And the interview I did had 20,000 plus views and mostly positive stuff. Hootie went on there; his was pretty positive. Gunnar Lindblom went on there; his was positive.
JC, when did you get into this?
Like, when
did you start? Just was it very soon after you started really watching the shows that you started your own channel, or did it take a while?
Well, I was interviewed on some hip hop type shows with my bros that were involved with Freeway Rick Ross and his coke stuff back in 2015, and that's where I even started alluding to my old life and all that. Because before I was trying to be a middle class businessman, I wasn't trying to tell people what I used to do. If anything, I was going out of my way to hide it.
Right.
And then with the COVID stuff, I was just bored. And I got invited onto one show, and it was just some regular show. And from there, I started getting asked to do a few others. And then Hootie and I went and started this, what we ended up doing. And now it's myself and Gene and a few others are involved.
Really quick. I'm in contact with Anthony Caiucci. We just didn't work out a date. So we're in contact. I know he's been traveling to Colombia. So he's somebody that I'm working.
That'd be a good one too.
Opening up a pipeline.
He says because his guy in Colombia reminds me of some of my old guys. I like what he says.
Hey Georgie, I reached out to Tom to do some networking with them, with Rojo and. Yeah.
I gotta get on. I'm gonna put a note for that.
Tom never got back to you. That's the problem. He doesn't get back to me.
Actually, he got back to me, but then he wanted me to get the emails, and I didn't get back to him because I just.
You have access to emails in your car? How are you gonna get an email? Oh, I'm sorry.
He wanted me to.
Okay.
He wanted me to get their emails and send them to him.
What about
your chops? You live in your car.
I know.
He's a funny bastard.
I know what you're doing.
Gunners Collective, that guy.
Yeah.
No, not
back at it like you already know.
Back at it like a crack addict. He has some
back
funny sayings, bro.
Back at it like you already know.
That around regular people. I'm back at it like I better not say that.
Back at it.
Gunners sayings are hilarious, though. Yeah.
Back at it.
Tom Dowd.
Really quick, I inquired about Dowd. Rumor has it he's paid for play. I don't like to pay guests. I paid George though to come on. I paid George,
and he pays me to stay away.
Exactly. So I just and I heard it from multiple sources, and Jeff could back me up. It's a slippery slope. Once you're known for paying, then people come have a handout.
I got one. Seth Ferrante, the guy that
I know who he is.
Callie and he was just on that scam artist dude's that ex-scam artist that has a good show now. Matt Cox, his show.
Matt Cox.
Seth Ferrante was that dude that
he's the scammer for the mortgage fraud.
All kinds of crazy shit. And then you maybe talk to Ori Spotto. He has some interesting stuff, and he hasn't been around for a while.
What about Louis Ferrante?
Yeah, he's good. That guy. Yep, I know him.
Him either.
He was a Gambino associate, or was he a made member?
No, he was an associate.
Okay.
Associate, but like when I talk to guys in that era, maybe a little exaggerated.
Tom, what's the deal with that Cauchy dude? Cauchy, not from Florida.
He was more of a drug dealer, but he was around like Jerry Chili. I think he was around.
I know he had his own show for a while. He said stuff, but that's pretty much what he talked about.
Yeah.
I heard he had a tragedy in his life.
Now he's got Carlos with him, and that dude, I can tell, he has been around the block. I'm not familiar with Colombia, but he sounds a lot like the old homeboys Mexican dudes I knew. So, he sounds like he makes sense. He doesn't sound like he's overdoing it and overblowing it, and he's not really bragging. It sounds like it's his routine. And when guys talk about stuff and it sounds like a normal thing. Now, whether he tells the truth on everything or not, I don't know. Who knows? But
I think
he makes sense.
I think Anthony Caiucci, the way he named his book, is a blessing and a curse. Mafia Made draws you in, so you're like outside this bubble. You're like, ooh, Mafia Made. Let's hear about that. But guys like us that are little historians, to kind of like when you're not a man, have that book. It's a little, So I would ask him about that in the interview.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah.
I think he was involved with Tony Plate, or his father was.
In Chile, too.
His dad was.
Hey, Jeff brought up something earlier, and I think it was today's show about Joe Messino. Joe Messino was to launch something, boy, or somebody was able to get a hold of him and interview him. Oh man,
he's the golden goose there.
Forget about it, man.
I don't think the government will ever let you near that dude, man.
Can you imagine Sammy Gravano interviewing him?
Oh wow. After he just said they would have whacked them if they were on the street.
Yeah, Sammy got bad shit to say about him because partly the Sal Vitale thing, being an ex-cop and all that shit.
Hey, Tom, you know what, the Tony Pizza thing, the article yesterday and all that stuff. Did we talk about that on the show?
No, I'm not going to talk about it here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Boo-boo ass shit.
Oh, Joe.
Why is that relevant? Who cares?
Joking around.
Why is what?
We're approaching
balls.
We're approaching the almost 3-hour mark. So I'm giving everybody the 2-minute warning. Since George is on Newark, what's on your mind these days, Georgie?
Honestly, first time I came on with Big Blue, man, I've seen him on a few times, man. I like this dude, Stilo, bro. I like you're a solid dude, man. And obviously, 3 of you guys are close friends of mine. Well, 2 of you are very close friends of mine. Tom, you're a friend of mine. But what I really want to say, man.
Who's the fucking 2, George?
Who's it 2? It's diagonal. Goes like this. No, but honestly, I'm in
fucking George again under here, George. Watch your hands. Jesus Christ. Right?
Hey, my head's big. Watch out, dude. Watch this.
Come through my head.
Hey, you look like a big dude.
Hey, thank you,
Detroit
boss.
Honestly, man, what I want to say is close friends, man. Listen, the beefs that are with all these people between all this horse shit, man, we're all supposed adults, man. Honestly, I'm not going to badmouth anybody or say nothing. I wish it would lighten up with some of the people, especially Vinny, man. He's a close personal friend of mine, a brother. I consider him a brother, man. And people attacking him. He's going through some personal shit right now. He's going through some things with some, I'm not going to say too much, but, I just feel like it just shouldn't be happening, man. Why are you picking on somebody that's going through some other things? This ain't that serious, man. Yep. Let it roll, bro. Let it go. Let it fly off your back. Leave the man alone. Let him do what he's got to do. And believe me, I'm not threatening anybody, but I will defend my friends, and I will do what I got to do and get it right.
I have very long memory, George. I have a very long memory.
Give me an E.
But that's not what I'm saying.
Why?
I know what you're saying.
What I'm saying is this. I think it's petty. It's cheap. It's bullshit. Vinny's not a bad guy. He's a very good guy. He did a good thing this summer. I donated money. I know everybody was saying all these negative things. It's all horseshit. I mean, he's a good dude. I know he did what he did out of his heart for righteous things. I donated myself. So please let the man deal with what he's donated big too.
He donated.
If you want to pick on somebody, pick on me. Other than that, I'll leave it up to the rest
George,
of the guys.
I'll be honest with you. I'll say this much. Because I'm getting a little bit deeper and it's affecting me in terms of like.
And you too, Tom. Tom. You know what? I wanted to say that too. I'm sorry I didn't mention that. But I know you've been getting hell for the last couple months, and I think that's bullshit also. Yeah. And I'm here for you. I know I'm not as close with you as I am with Vinny and Joe. Yeah. But trust me, man. I think it's bullshit. I told you that the last time I was on. Well, I don't know why these guys are trying to.
I'll give you an example. I will say this much. So I got like something sent to me, and it was like a direct threat, right? So I'm like, fuck this. I'm just posting on the story because I'm tired of this shit, right? So then all of his people come to me. They're like, that wasn't meant for you. That was meant for Al. So then I'm so now you just threw him under the bus. Now you're saying he's threatening me. He's threatening this guy. Now he's threatening Al. So like, that's not the right move. So I removed it. Then I put up the one that was a direct threat to me where it said my name, and people are like, not saying anything. I'm done with it, And the funny thing is, like, he's in Englewood, Florida, on like Wellington Street right now. Like, I know where he is. Like, I don't know why these people like. But just because I'm not doing but just because I'm not doing anything publicly here doesn't mean I'm doing things privately. Like, so like, you just got to, guys, give me a little time. It's gonna be a little expensive. It's gonna require some resources. I may call George up on the sneak. But the truth of the matter is, I feel a certain level of leadership on this for Vinny, for Joe. Those are the main guys. But like, I kind of feel like I feel the need to do something because otherwise, I don't think something's going to be done.
Hey, anybody going at Al is going to have to answer to me because I get my Mac Daddy tips from that guy.
Yeah. But I'm just at a point.
Comes from Al now,
I'm just at a point. Like, enough's enough, and I'm taking action. It's just that simple. It sucks because I really wish it was different. Sucks. I tried 4 attempts. I will tell you this much: the authorities are involved. I don't care if anybody calls me a rat. I'm not a street guy.
You're a street guy, man.
So
it's fucking ridiculous. I heard that message today. That shit sounds so fucking stupid, man.
Listen, man, I've done fucking time, man. I'm a convicted felon. I've done time. I ain't no fucking rat. I know what a rat is, dude. You're not a rat. You're a civilian. You're a business owner. Some guy's knocking you around and threatening your kids and your family, talking all kinds of shit. Yep. You're a family guy. You're not involved in nothing. It ain't like we robbed the bank together and you ratted me out kind of shit. Right. And that's a different thing. So, it's bullshit.
So you guys, just before he throws us all off here, I want to thank you all for having my back when I haven't felt well, especially an extra measure of support to Joe, who came on the shows. I know he was tired because I didn't know if I was going to run into the bathroom and throw up half the time. And so, Joe, I love you, man. Thank you for being there for me, and Georgie for calling, and Jeff yesterday, and Tom, as always, and JC, or Lou. You guys are amazing, and you've made it a lot easier for me. I really mean that. So thank you.
I texted you a little earlier. I texted you a little bit ago. I don't know if you get the text.
I didn't look. Actually, I was laying down, but I'll look. But I'll tell you,
why.
all the
I'm glad to see you on here.
All the YouTube shit that I've gone through, meeting you guys, I swear to you, I'll do it tomorrow again.
I'm glad to see you up here smiling. You know, I figured you weren't feeling well because you didn't get back to me or you were busy
today.
Hey, Vinny, sick or not, I want the middle back, man.
The what?
You gotta put him in the Could you put him in the far right corner of the fucking screen?
Oh. There we go. No. All right. So
bring on 2 more people, and then we could have a game show.
All right. So
I'll take Vinny for the win.
We had Mob Entertainment Group. When could I come on your show?
Anytime.
Not for an interview, just to make fun of you or debate something.
It's the same thing.
That's fine. I appreciate that. Heck, I've had an open challenge for months for people to do that. So hey, why not?
Hey, Tom.
Yeah.
I got something big coming out tomorrow. You guys are going to be surprised.
Too much information, Jeff. Oh.
All right. Well,
coming from Vinny.
You got an A-Light interview coming up tomorrow.
That's it. He's interviewing Sammy. All right. So, guys, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I have to get yelled at.
Daddy duty.
No, Tom. Don't go.
So
it's all good. I got chicken tacos from Del Taco tonight. So
Del Taco. I miss Del Taco.
Hey, Jeff, look at your text message.
All right, guys. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you, everybody in the chat.
All right,
fellas. All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Georgie D.
Thank you, guys.
All right, fellas. Good night, huh?
Yep. Have a good one.
Good night.
Yep. Likewise, everybody.
We could probably stay on. You wouldn't even know.
Hey, everybody can miss one by one.
Let's hang out for another couple of hours. He'll come back on.
You know what we should do? We should do some cash apps to get Georgie a hotel room for the night. Lou, a hotel room for the night.
Yeah.
Well, I know. Well, I seen the back seat of his car. It looks pretty comfortable. I'll tell you that.
Hey, World War III at home right now. Oh well.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
I hit the wrong button. I'll see you guys later.
See you later.
Bye, guys.